Clicker. Up, back.
Where's my pointing as to make a change?
Oh, it's right here on my laptop.
Oh,
Yeah, you just hit it. It'll work.
oh, okay. It's up.
Benny said he's gonna start the stream at 9 sharp.
Right,
Even
well,
if we're not ready, but at least so people can see that it's actually.
and we should be able to start
Yeah.
as long as we see nobody's at the register, we can rock and roll.
Plug something back in that got disconnected.
Oh God. Good Lord.
John, you need anything?
Mine is falling. Mine is fell off. I had one of my pocket.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you. I've been coming down to the other. I don't think
Okay.
Hey, Mark, can you grab Walter for me, please?
Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning. How's everybody? Excellent. My name's Austin Jordan. I'm Vice President of the Barrier Island Station Interval Ownership Association, and I hereby call the 2025 annual meeting of said association to order. There being greater than 10% of the association present either in person or by proxy, the existence of a quorum is noted. And before I do anything else on the agenda, I'd like to ask all veterans in the audience to stand, please. And for the record, I am a veteran and I am standing. Okay, let's see. I'd like to call your attention to the minutes of the 2024 annual meeting that should be in your packet as you were distributed. Take a few minutes and review them, please. Got it. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the 2025 annual meeting minutes? Yes, sir.
I see it says, funding for accomplishments, we foreclosed on 60 prime weeks. Do we know what it was, weeks 32, 33, 34, or they weeks 51, 50, 49, what's that?
If they're listed as prime weeks, they are weeks in the prime time, as in summertime.
Typically weeks 26 to 32 or 24 to 32 in that range. Yeah. 60 units for closed on those weeks.
This is just a minute review. Understood. If we could wait until questions and answers, we'll be happy to answer those questions. Okay. Again, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes? There being none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the 2024 annual meeting.
So moved.
And state your name for the record, sir.
Joseph D. Evans.
Thank you. May I have a second? Yes. Yes, sir. May I have your name? Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the minutes of the 2024 annual meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes of the 2024 annual meeting are adopted. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the president of the Barrier Island Station Interval Ownership Association, Denise Truesdale. Denise.
All right, hi everyone. Good morning. It's great to see all of you, and I appreciate you taking the time to come to the meeting once again. I see a lot of familiar faces here, And it's really a great weekend on the island, and I hope a lot of you got a chance to be able to stay at the resort this time. We were able to get you guys some great rates. I hope you agree with that. And from what I was told, there were at least 29 units this week that were used for the annual meeting. So we really appreciate your loyalty, and thank you so much for coming out. Just as usual, I think you guys are pretty familiar with the routine right now, but just to kind of go through the agenda, we're going to have our Q&A session at the end of this again, as we usually do. We have a jam-packed meeting, so there's no way for us to keep stopping and answering questions during the meeting, so we'll take the Q&A at the end of the meeting for that. You should have a copy of the meeting materials that you got at the registration desk. We've got owners that are on. Hello to you all going virtually. We've got owners on to the meeting, and we've posted the Q&A and the materials and the documents on the owner portal. Okay. We are basically going to have the agenda reviewed, and the meeting will be adjourned at noon. And then my favorite part of the session is we'll have a meet and greet and celebrate. We'll be celebrating our successes. Okay, so on to the agenda that we have here. I will be handing this over to the treasurer following the welcome session. Then we'll be introducing the VRI team. There'll be a project update telling us what's the latest on some of the projects that we have going. The appointment of the election of the directors. Then we'll take a break. During the break and while the votes are being tallied up, we'll start the Q&A session. So the Q&A session will go from the time that we come back from the break until the time that we actually start with the election results. And then following the adjournment, we'll have our meet, greet, and celebrate. And maybe Margie and John will be lucky again to get some more of those great prizes. Okay. And once again, I can't thank you all enough as the owners, but I also want to take a minute to introduce the team again that makes up this resort of ours. We're an extraordinary resort, and we've got an extraordinary bunch of people that make up Barrier Island Station. And so let me start by introducing to you, you've met him, Austin Jordan. Austin is the vice president. And if there's anything that we have to do with contracts, he is really the go-to person for that, as well as he spent a great deal of time along with other members putting together the brand new bylaws and spearheading that. And then, of course, I'm sure there's no introduction needed for the money man. That would be Carmen Di Giovanni. Carmen is just a master when it comes to dealing with the finances and giving us the guidance. And I really can't thank him enough for his wealth of information and all the contributions that he makes to the board. And Rich Finelli, he's the architect on the PRIM. He's also he's our secretary. And without him, I don't know what we do without getting the advice that we've had for putting together the rec center, the interiors, decorations, and all the things that you'll do. You'll see actually some of the artwork here that Rich has done too, that he'll be donating today as part of the raffle. So I appreciate his contributions. And then Chuck Lataki. Chuck is just a great all-round guy. Anything that we need to have done, we get done, and I'm sure you've all heard from Chuck when he was trying to get those votes together for the bylaws. So we appreciate all the contributions that everyone has made to the board. And of course, I can't thank you guys enough, the owners, because we've had many ups and downs with Barrier Island Station. And you know, I look back every year at what we've done, what our contributions have been, and now it's been, you know, over the last 15 years here, we've been able to get a lot of stuff done. And we'll be reflecting again on that. But thanks to you guys for hanging in there and continuing to be loyal and make Barrier Island the special place that it is. Normally, Debbie Olive is here. She's always usually sits right in the front here at the meeting. She let me know that she couldn't make it. She was sorry she couldn't be here physically, but she's here virtually. So let's just thank Debbie by a round of applause for all the work that she's done with the Facebook. And then you'll meet the property management team, the capital/VRI team very shortly as well. And I just want to thank them all for the contributions. And thanks to the folks that are making the annual meeting today possible. So just to continue on again with this as we look back, we have really a lot to be proud about here. And again, the success of this resort is really because of us. We, the owners and the members here, are the people that make this resort possible. This entire operation is self-funded. It's us that really do this. If you look around and you're familiar with a lot of the legacy resorts, many of them are no longer with us today. And we've been able to just continuously work to try and make things happen. It may not be as quick as everyone wants it to be, but we have been able to move everything along. And I was encouraged today to hear from one of our owners who has 6 weeks that actually owns in the 700 building, and he was telling me about how happy he and his family are for the work that they've been seeing at the resort. So you've probably noticed a lot of changes. We've gotten rid of a lot of that trash and the equipment and stuff that's in the front of the building, and we're continuing to work on improving it. It takes a while, but patience is the key at the resort here. We're always looking to make careful financial decisions with whatever we do, because here, every penny counts. We have to literally stretch every dollar, and you never know what you're going to find at Barrier Island when you pull back a wall. It's just, you never know. We start doing the construction work, and there's always something that comes up, in the same way with the Quest Plumbing. So we still continue to work on reducing the delinquency rate. And a reminder, back in August of 2022, we got the necessary votes to extend the timeshare termination, so we got that behind us. And I'm happy to say that this year, in June, we were able to complete getting the bylaws votes. And now, as a part of that, you probably noticed from your packages you received this year that you were able to cast your own votes with the ballot this year, and we'll be working on having electronic voting for the next season. Building a world-class resort, that's our goal. We're working through that, and we did receive and are continuing to work on the rewards that we get from RCI. So we've gotten the hospitality, and we're looking at moving into the next grade, which would be silver. So thank you again for your contributions to making all this happen. Just a reminder of all that we've done since 2015. In 2015 is when we went from basically being developer-owned to having a board, an independent board. They're not in chronological order, but what I'll say from that is that we've worked over these years to build on the successes that we had. So it started with us getting the North Carolina real estate license, and from there we were able to start doing deed backs and to start actually acquiring some of the additional revenue to work with the resort. We have a new pickleball court. We didn't have an HVAC maintenance program, so what we did was we developed one, and through careful management, we've been able to plan for 17 units a year to be replaced, and we're doing that. You've probably noticed the EV charging stations that we have that are now a part of the resort. We have a brand new recreation center. I hope you've all been able to enjoy and take advantage of that. And back from the old days, one of my favorite things is we didn't have Wi-Fi. We didn't have decent Wi-Fi. It used to be called OBX WAN, and it was very slow. And so we finally decided that we had to bite the bullet and build our own fiber network. So as a result of doing that, we have great Wi-Fi. From there, we were able to get into the VoIP service, so voice over IP. We could save on our telephone bills by taking out the traditional POTS lines or phone lines. We replaced that with the voice over IP service. We now have the Spectrum Enterprise service, which allows us to have the fiber cable television, in addition to being able to use the Spectrum app. So probably, I hope many of you have started to use that. So when you're at the resort, if you bring the app up, even on your phone, you can see television anywhere from any place. And most of you know I've always wanted a TV, so we have television from anywhere you want to have it. In fact, what you'll find now is we also have TVs in the other units that we remodeled in the bedrooms. So we've come a long way from taking care of this. All right, so The next thing, again, is just a time for us to celebrate. The real big deal for us this year was finally passing the bylaws. It was years, literally years, in the making to make this happen. And what really needed to go on was originally was reviewing the old bylaws, creating and drafting new ones, and then getting the necessary votes to do it. So I want to thank again Bob Allen, who's no longer with us in the meeting today. He was a former president of the board, and along with Bob and Austin and Carmen, they drafted and developed a new set of bylaws that we were working on. And then as a team, and thanks with Chuck Lataki as well, they worked tirelessly to get the votes. So I just like to thank them, and let's give them a round of applause for the work that they did to make this happen. And thanks to you guys too, because if we didn't get the votes, we wouldn't do this. And so, again, thanks for the contributions there. I included in the charts the vote count. We ended up even getting a little more votes than was necessary. So thank you for that. And if you refer back to the chart later, you'll see the accomplishments that we did. But my thing is to be able to give you, to make a great resort, we need to have superior services. And what we have here is being able to connect anywhere, anytime, from anywhere that you are. So we're going to continue to make things happen that way. And of course, I have to mention too, if many of you have noticed, we have a great recreation center director now, and I hope you've been able to take advantage of the activities that Katie is bringing to the resort. So thanks to her. The open lines of communication, this is just a reminder that we have a monthly update where we try to keep people aware of what's going on with our newsletter. You have our email if ever you want to be able to contact us. And then on a little bit of a sadder note, but I did want to take a moment. I'm sure most of you that are here, I'm sure most of you remember and know Julia Lee. Julia unfortunately passed away over the summer. And I just wanted us to take a moment to reflect and remember Julia. Julia's legacy is really woven into the foundation of our resort. She was one of the original developers of the property, and Julia was actually running it and was the president from after the development in 2009 until 2014. And you might have remembered she'd always sit to the front of the room when she came to the meetings, and she came to the meetings faithfully until her health started to fail, and then she had to stop coming. But she really played a key role in building something here that continues to bring joy, community, and connection to us in this resort. So I just want to have us reflect and remember Julia. And with that, thank you guys. I'm going to ask Carmen to come up, our treasurer.
Good morning, all. One quick question. Are we advancing our own slides here?
Yes.
We are?
Clicker up there.
This guy? Okay, so there's where I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't someone else I should be leaning on here. I want to thank Denise for her kind words. The only thing that I feel deficient is I've not been able to print money that we can put into this resort. So we still have to get the money from us, the owners here. But quick thing, some of the accomplishments, and I'm just going to quickly address something that John brought up here. I have on here completed foreclosure on prime weeks that I put in parentheses pending. That has been delayed. We've had some miscommunication between ourselves and our law firm about who is doing what on this. So we have not completed these 60 prime weeks. What we do with these 60 weeks, though, is we rent them. So they are a revenue source to the association. And if you go down to the second bullet here, this was a record year for us in terms of rental revenue. We've recorded so far $231,000 in net rental income. So this is real dollars in cash to us. That's the equivalent of 216 owners paying their bills, or, in the way I phrase it here, offsetting 216 delinquencies. So we still will have rental income for October, November, and December, not as much, but this is the biggest year of rental revenue generation that we've ever had. Capital has a very aggressive rental program. We have taken back, I think the latest count, 37 deeds so far through our deed back program, which offset potential delinquencies, and we, the association, will receive fees of about $111,000 from that go into the Treasury. Worked on a negotiation of the financial terms of the repurposing agreement for the 100 building, and I have monthly reviews with Walter and John over the financials, so we stay on top of the financial progress month by month, trying not to let any issues get out of hand. 26 objectives: maintain overall effective financial controls, oversee matters pertaining to the 100 building. We're going to get a little more into that in one of my later slides about the importance of this effort and frankly the importance that the 100 building owners play in this effort. Continue an aggressive rental unit program. Just so everyone's clear, if an owner is delinquent, they are not allowed to use their unit. They can't do anything with it. We can't take it in a legal sense, but we can rent it. And so that's where a lot of our rental income, right? The units that we, the association, own, plus also the units that are out of service for owner use that we can rent. And develop the financing plans for the Quest Plumbing Replacement Interior Upgrade completion project here. Okay, this slide, for those of you who've been here before, will recognize it. This is tracking 31 years of our maintenance fee progression in this case meaning increase. Nothing goes down in this world here. The top line, and I've changed the colors a little bit, so I hope it's has a little better visibility to the audience. The top line is the national average of maintenance fees. This is a weighted average that I compute based on 2 and 3 bedroom units, because we have a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom units here. Even though we pay a standard fee regardless of unit size, the rest of the world does not necessarily pay that. So this is to show a more reasonable approximation of the world versus us. It's about a $400 difference in 2026. And the one thing I want to add on this is the 2026 data that I show here for the national average really is 2025, because we look at historical data that is given to us by ARDA, which is an industry organization. So even though I label it as 2026, the gap between 2026 of the industry and our 2026 would actually be greater than the $400 that you show here. But this is the best that we can show at this time. It still underscores the fact that there's a measurable gap, and as I've stated before, if we had tracked the national average over this time period, we would have raised over that time an additional $25 million. What does that mean? There never would have been a special assessment. You wouldn't wait 30 years to get a couch replaced or to get your rugs replaced. That $25 million would have paid for all of that. But especially in the early years when this was a developer-controlled organization and the effort was deliberately done to suppress maintenance fees, keep them lower, this is the price that we pay. So, yes, ma'am.
To that, you should add that the developer who held a number of significant weeks never paid any maintenance fees at all to the facility.
I don't know that that's the case. I do know that in the latter years that's the case, but I also know that those were winter weeks that were owned. We own those now, but that was an issue. There's no doubt about it when it was developer control. So it's something for which we pay the price. Okay, next slide here. This is a slide that I update every year. What I'm trying to show here is that our maintenance fees we're not just raising maintenance fees for the sake of raising maintenance fees. The red line is our operating expenses. The blue line is our maintenance fees. If you were to do a least squares regression for you statisticians out there, those are two pretty much straight lines with no slope. Okay, so essentially our fees are pretty much tracking our expenditures in this regard. It doesn't mean that anyone's happy with what the fees are, but it does mean that we are staying on a level track here and not raising fees willy-nilly. There's a reason fees are going up. This also is, for those of you who've seen this before, is an unpleasant graph to show, because the red line is our owner participation. The blue line is our growth in maintenance fees over this period. The owner participation rate in the budget for 2026 is 52.5%. The participation rate in the 2025 budget was 25%. I'm sorry, excuse me, was 54%. So we're dropping it 1.5%. We're going to miss the 2025 participation rate by somewhere around 0.5–0.6 of a percentage point. So we're coming in below our budgeted maintenance fees for this year. So the delinquency rate, while the rate of decline has slowed, it's still there. We still lose a few owners every year, unfortunately. So in here, just as a quick snapshot of some key elements of the 2025 budget versus the forecast as to where the variances are. You can see maintenance fee revenue, because our participation rate is going to be below budget, we're going to be off about 5% in maintenance fee collections. We do make some of that up with other revenue, so we'll be off about 4% in cash flow income to the association. Our net operating expenses are going to be slightly above budget at about 1.6%, and so we expect to have a shortfall this year of a little over $200,000. And this is all based on September data, which is the latest that we have available. Excuse me. Persistent sinus infection is bothering me. I apologize for that. No, I'm fine so far, thank you. So this is the operating expense budget by major areas of activity versus the forecast. And I'm not going to read all the numbers, you have this, but I want to concentrate on a couple of the variances here. You see housekeeping has a measurable variance of almost 14%. That's largely generated to the effort that we spent this year of upgrading and standardizing the contents of the rooms. So the dishes, the flatware, pots and pans, things such as that come out of the housekeeping budget. So there's more to be spent next year, but this was a big slug this year. That was the primary driver for this negative variance. We didn't have it in the budget, but we felt it was important to put those elements into the rooms. The other big one on there it's actually only 2% admin in general. Admin in general, the biggest driver here, quite frankly, are two elements. One is insurance. We spend almost $500,000 in insurance in our facility, and there is very little we could do to drive that down. It has to do with the construction of our buildings. It has to do with the location of our buildings. And many insurance companies simply will not even entertain giving us a quote on insurance. We actually, I believe, Walter may correct me on this, I think we deal with a state pool for insurance. So we're kind of into a common ownership structure where risk is pooled and hopefully premiums are kept under control. But that's a non-controllable cost for us. The other big reason for the variance in here is monies that we put into the Common Area Association for the upcoming outdoor pool renovation project. So all in all, those are the major components of the operating expense variance versus budget as projected for this year. In terms of where are we going to go next year versus the forecast, we're expecting, and everyone has the same bill here, you know what the maintenance fees are going, so we expect a measurable increase in maintenance fee revenue, 12%. And other revenues were projected to go up also about another 5%. But operating expenses here are also expected to go up 6.6% next year, and we'll get into some of those reasons in a moment. So in terms of the operating expense budget versus the 2025 actual by major category, what are the big movers? Housekeeping, we actually see a decrease of 10% in expenditures. We're not going to cut the housekeeping staff or the efforts. This is because of the money that was spent this year that doesn't get respent next year. In maintenance, there's a 25% increase. It's no secret that we've had issues in maintenance, primarily with staffing. We have a problem maintaining staff here. We run at about 50% of our budgeted staff year-round, and that's simply untenable. The biggest issue, we believe, is our salary, our wage structure for maintenance employees. So Walter and Mark did a survey of what are general maintenance people paid by other employers on the Outer Banks, and we are raising the salary budgets here by $4 to $5 an hour. That's a measurable increase. I think they're going from roughly $18 to $23 or $24, somewhere in that range. So we're about to find out if wages are the reason why we can't retain maintenance personnel. So there's an active program to hire additional maintenance people, pay them what they should be paid so that we can retain them. So that's the primary drive right there. That is the drive for the increase in the maintenance against the actual or projected expenses for 2025. The others, the biggest one below that then is reserve funding. You see a 175% increase, and a lot, there are two drivers of that. One is monies toward the outdoor pool renovation, and the other, the monies that are going into the reserve account for when we start to tackle the plumbing project and the interior refurbishments. Overall, 6.6% increase above the 2025 forecast. Pie chart for the visuals among us here, just to show you slices-wise where your budget goes, and the biggest chunk is admin in general. And again, the key components in admin in general, the largest single one is insurance. The maintenance fee that we pay to Capital Vacations, that's about roughly $250,000. Our contribution to the common area, that's several $100,000. Those are the three biggest components of admin in general. Housekeeping is housekeeping. It's what we pay for the services that we hire. We don't have our own housekeeping staff. And then reserve funding and maintenance, and the other pie slices tend to start to fall off in terms of impact. And if you look at your maintenance fee, when you show up here for your week, where is your $1,185 going? Well, $242 and change is going to keep your unit clean. There is, I'll be quite frank in this, there's an imbalance in the way these fees are handled in this resort. It's structural in our documents. Those who own lockout units pay the same housekeeping fee as those who own non-lockout units. The housekeeping company charges us for 2 units every time a lockout is cleaned versus 1 fee when a non-lockout unit is cleaned. They look at it in hotel lingo as doors or keys, not units. So housekeeping here, those who own lockouts get a little bit of a break. Those who have non-lockouts, we thank you for your contribution to the housekeeping budget. But so again, it's just a way of portraying where your dollars go. Yes, sir.
Just a simple question. Lockouts in the top floors of 700 to 800 have an extra lock versus units down below.
Hmm?
That are lockouts. Do we get charged the same fee for both?
Yes.
The lockout with the lockout with the other?
All the lockout buildings on the 3rd floor units are 2 stories, I believe. They all have that, and everybody pays the same fee. It doesn't matter the size of your unit, doesn't matter how many bedrooms, doesn't matter what week you're here. Fees here are universal. That's, for those of you who may own at other resorts, you may find a different model. A Seascape right up the road has, I think, a 2-tiered maintenance fee structure. Okay, but we don't. We have a 1-tier. It's what's integral into our documents. We've talked about this. We could modify this. This would require a modification or an amendment to the documents. My wife has nagged me about this, quite frankly. She's not here to nag, but she does nag me about this. The problem is, to do that, we are going to create winners and losers. Okay? Everybody who has a lockout unit would pay more. Everyone who has a non-lockout unit would pay less. They're the winners. Lockout owners are the losers. So you get nowhere in a winner and loser situation if you try to amend that. That's the reality of it. It's the way the documents were structured from the beginning. Special assessment status. Where are we going on this? This is the assessment from 2020. Basically, we've had overruns and underruns through here. We expect to have about when all the bills are in now. We finally cleaned up everything. We have a full accounting of where all the money is, where it was spent. We have about $319,000 left from the 2020 special assessment that will roll forward. And it's going to be augmented by the reserve contribution from the 2026 budget. It's going to give us a starting point of about $600,000, which we're going to see on the next slide here. So here's the overall update. Estimated cost, these are the latest numbers. We updated this last week, just before this presentation. The cost to complete the plumbing project, about a little over $900,000. The estimated cost to complete the interior upgrades for the buildings that have not yet been upgraded, $2.6 million. Total cost, $3.5 million. We expect to have right now about $600,000 between what's on hand and what's in the budget, which leaves us a shortfall of $2.9 million. So where do we get that? Well, here's where the importance of the repurposing of the 100 building comes in, because we will get a $1.5 million upfront draw from that transaction if we get the 75% of the owners to approve that. Okay? And we can't say for sure, we may have another $1.5 million on the back end of that transaction after all the costs are in, after the units are sold, and the profits are distributed. The developer, which is Tobe, MVP, their participation is capped by contract. Okay? We cap that at $1.75 million, which is gross revenue to them. They have to pay their expenses out of that. That's not profit to them. But we put a cap on that, which, should this be a lucrative transaction, the extra income comes to us. Okay? So that's why the back-end distribution is unknown, but based on the numbers we see right now, could be as high as another $1.5 million. And if we get the upfront 1.5, and if we get the back end 1.5, and if we combine it with the $600,000 that we have, we don't have it now, but we will have enough to complete this work. The bad news is, if we don't get that, if the 100 vote fails, if the returns on that are not what we project, there's not much of a cushion in here, which would require some additional fundraising down the road. These are the projected costs to complete the refurbishment by type of building and by element. So we're looking at construction costs of a little over $2 million. The FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, $434,000, and the plumbing, as previously mentioned, a little over $900,000. And that's the 2.9 at the lower right-hand corner that you see there. And that concludes my presentation. Yes, ma'am, real quick.
Do you have any update on how many responded and what is going to be affirmative and what is do you have any, what's the progress of that?
Well, regarding the 100 building, two elements are in play here. One was the survey, which is basically where you would like to go, what type of unit, what week, things such as that. The other is the voting package. The voting package is still being vetted by attorneys. That has not gone out yet. That's the key one, not what we want, but who's going to vote. That's the one that's the key. That is expected to be released later this month. It'll go to the 100 building owners, but it will also be posted on the website. All of us will be able to see that. There's no secret here. It's just that if you don't own the 100, you can't vote. This is strictly a 100 building association exercise. So, yeah. Thank you.
Good
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. My name's John Mallows. I serve as a Regional Vice President of Operations for VRI Capital Vacations. I'm based in Central Mass. I am a little stuffy today. The pine and the fall allergies do impact me, so I apologize in advance. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you here today as owners. I get to participate in a lot of owner meetings and a lot of annual meetings, especially September through December. It is not often that I arrive to a meeting and there is this level of participation. So thank you for all of you for attending, for taking time out of your day to come and have conversation and dialogue so that we can continue to improve your property and your experience. To introduce our team, I first wanted to just talk about the structure and, where does a management company fall within that picture? So the way it's established is you've got Barrier Island Station Resort, which is your physical property. You've got an owners association. That is the body of owners. Each and every interval owner is a member in that association. And then you've got an elected board of directors, which are volunteers, elected through the member base, which is all of you. Their primary function is financial oversight, planning, developing strategy, governance, and oversight. And then establishment of policies. As you've heard the talk about the bylaws and you hear rules and regulations, that all falls within their purview. The management company is a third-party partner. We are hired by the board of directors, and we serve a term of any length of period as defined by that board of directors. Some of the key things that we do as your management company starts with financial planning, which is the annual budget, working closely with the board, with the resort staff, with Walter and the regional team, to establish an operating budget that's realistic, that covers the cost of expenses, and helps us plan for future repairs, which is our reserve contribution and reserve projects that you look at. I think you've heard the conversation about the Quest Plumbing. That's a large project that takes several years of planning and funding, your interior unit renovations, and then the outdoor pool and other things. So those are just some of the key things from a financial planning standpoint. In addition, we do all the HOA accounting. So we're responsible for processing all the invoices from vendors, everything from electricity to insurance to purchasing paper goods and supplies for the front desk, and everything that our teams need as far as activities, housekeeping, maintenance, so that they have the tools and resources to do their jobs each and every day. Coupled with that, we provide technology platform and solutions. Each property that we manage has a property management system. We use SPI, which is a very advanced and sound and reliable system. We've worked closely with them to create some proprietary technologies within SPI. As Carmen alluded to, the rental figures, it allows us really to look at the revenue sources, which are primarily maintenance fees, and then rental, and then interest, and some other miscellaneous fees. So what that technology allows us to do is push that inventory out to the open market to create as much exposure to generate revenue. And that revenue generated offsets the weeks that the association owns, in addition to those owners that either cannot pay or just do not pay their bills. So that's kind of the technology piece. Out of the sake of time, some of the other things we do is in owner services. We support the platform online as well as through call centers that we have located throughout the country. They help everything, answer owner questions, help with reservations. If there's updates that you have to your ownership, or there's challenges you're facing and you have questions as an owner, they're there to support you and make sure that you're served and you have the answers that you need. And then human resources from recruiting, retaining, benefits overview, and then onboarding, coaching, counseling, and development. So that's just a few of the things. Our team, as I stated, my role primarily is
from North Carolina all the way up through New England and as west as New York. So my oversight for financial and operational support to our teams spans about 32 resorts. Within that, there are several directors that are on my team, Walter being one of them here in the southeast, and I've got 5 others throughout that region. Walter and I serve as the primary contacts to the resort personnel to provide them support, as well as to work with your board of directors. In meetings like this, just to get to know the owners, hear what's going on with your ownership and experience, so that we can continue to include that in planning, funding, and strategy to make those improvements. Outside of that, our service team includes Mark Klippinger, who's here today. Mark is just coming out of his first high season, so his first summer as the general manager. Walter was promoted last December, so he'll be coming up on a year in his role. He served, I think, about 3.5 years as the general manager here prior to his promotion. You know, Mark's focus, we often think that we come out of season and things are slow, but that's really where all the work happens. That's where all the planning happens. That's where we take the lessons we learned from the previous season and really start to work with our departments, which you see here, our front desk teams, our maintenance teams, our housekeeping teams, activity and security, so that we can continue to make improvements, put systems in place, refine systems that need improvement, so that each season we hope we're improving that experience for you, the owners. As we look at the Bear Island Station direct teams, there's a few people here today. These meetings don't happen by themselves, so in addition to all the work that your board of directors does in preparing the information and the presentations, and the communications that go out to, you know, invite you here and get you here smoothly. There's also the resort team. So Mark, Amanda, Katie, who's here, and Taylor, all really just stepped up, helped with setup, refreshments, and hopefully what was a very smooth registration process. So I just want to acknowledge them for their efforts in that. And then obviously people can't be in 2 places at once, so we still do have a resort to operate. So we have some personnel that are not here at the meeting today. You know, Allison, Bill Weeks, who oversees our maintenance department, Katie Breslin, she is here, and then Alan Baum in security. And then as Carmen alluded to, we have a third-party housekeeping company. So on these turn days, especially Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, they're busy turning rooms and getting those ready for the next set of guests. And at this time, I just want to thank you for your attention. I'll introduce Mark Klippinger. He is your general manager at Bear Island Station, and he'll give you the general manager's report.
Good morning, everybody. I've seen quite a few of your faces, hopefully, you know, at managers' meetings, weekly managers' meetings, and just on the property. So, you know, I just appreciate you being here, and let's move forward. So in 2025, we had several accomplishments here. There's not 100% of them listed here, but these are just the main highlights. And first, we had a main electrical panel swap in the rec center, and that is a prep that was planned for future expansions in the rec center. We had new 55-inch TVs that were placed into the 800 building in both the A and the B side living rooms. We had sound deadening panels installed in the indoor pool area. Those of you who have been in the indoor pool have seen those, and they have worked very well. We upgraded furniture in the 800 building, sleeper sofas, love seats, sitting chair, 2 lamps on the A side, and then the sleeper sofa and the 2 lamps on the B sides. We had new sewer panel upgrades with 2 new pumps at the 800 and 400 building pumping station. That area was in dire need of repairs there, and like I said, we had those new items added this year. We completed the new fence area. Most of you have seen it if you've been on the property, and look to your left to house just maintenance and equipment and supplies in those areas, get them out of sight, and to just simply clean up our property. The property has been cleaned, of course, and of all the equipment and supplies that we've had sitting. Renovations are currently in progress in units 318A, 701, and 704, and soon to be in 702, 703, 705, and 706. And then lastly, for accomplishments for this year, the outdoor pool renovations, they will begin here very shortly. And we're just waiting on literally 1 or 2 items so that we can get the final presentation to the board and get their approval and simply get moving forward. So moving forward for 2026, there's multiple items, of course, that we want to do with the revenue that we have. We're going to get new pillows property-wide. Secondly, we're going to have keyless entry installed throughout the property. Media cabinets will be installed on the A and B side living rooms in the 500 and 800 buildings. We're going to continue with the standardization of all kitchenware throughout the property. And then the unit upgrade continuation will continue in the fall of 2026. The plumbing, flooring, painting for remaining units, and of course, as has been stated, this work will be contingent upon the repurposing approval. We'd also like to enclose the pad behind the rec center, and then we will be implementing maintenance. Okay. Yes, sir. It's just the pad on the back side of the rec center that houses the desert air outside unit system and the ACs, and it's just there's a large pad out there, and we want to get that enclosed up just to give it some it'll look much better. Yes, the outdoor pool renovations, it is basically going to include a full total redo of the pool. The shell of the pool will basically, the footprint of everything will stay the same, but it'll literally be, ripping out all the concrete, replacing coping, tile, actually replastering the pool, taking care of addressing all the plumbing that goes from every skimmer, replacing the skimmers all the way around to the pump house, and then new fencing, and let's see here. It's pretty much it, but just an entire redo. And like I said, the footprint will stay the same. And yes, we are also looking at, seeing what it would take to have the bridge replaced. So that is something as well. But that's really kind of the final piece that we're waiting on, just to get the final direction from the common area board, and then we'll be able to move forward. But it'll be pretty much a total redo.
That's already included in our budget, because that's the money to do that, that's not contingent on 100.
No, yeah, that's correct. That's not contingent on the 100 repurposing. Yes, ma'am.
I would just possibly ask, just for the sake of the business matters, we are going to have a full question and answer. So we do need to move through the business matters first. And then we do want to hear each and every question that you have. Because you're here to get information, we want to make sure all your questions are answered. But if I could just kindly ask that we stick to the agenda and the business matters, and then we will open up the Q&A to each of you, okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
I guess I'm back out. Here we go. Thank you. So I will have to read this. My eyesight's not quite as good as it once was for the screen, but looking at interior upgrade plans and timeline, so buildings 3, 4, 500, those interior upgrades have been completed. As we look forward, buildings 600, 700, 800, and the VIP building, which is out on the front on the main road. Construction is awaiting due to the major Quest plumbing failure, which is, as Austin alluded to, is just shy of $1 million. So that, in addition to new sofas, love seats, and furniture, have been placed in building 6, 7, and 800. Building 800 has also received new 55-inch flat screen TVs, and then TVs in the master bedroom. Building 100 awaiting those due to the funding and resolution shortfall. Upgrade schedule, fall of 2025. I think Mark alluded to the upgrades for building 700, including 701, 706, 318, plumbing replacement, and new LVT flooring. And then pending the repurpose approval, the Quest plumbing and those upgrades. Did you cover this or no? Right now, I think Austin does a great job with the finances. We review those monthly. In addition, we're starting a quarterly cadence. Too loud. We're going to start a quarterly cadence where we really do a deep dive. And what we want to do in that process is really understand these key projects that are scheduled over the course of the next couple of years, look at the funding, and then align the funding with the execution of those projects being started and completing on budget. So as you saw, there is a budget shortfall. So how do we make that up? Well, step one was an increase in maintenance fees this year. The history shows that we traditionally have not kept up with the increase in expense. And what we see with a maturing resort environment, owners who are just aging out of the product after 45 years being open and enjoying a great destination resort such as BIS. The big thing is the owner's vote, right? We need participation. We need 75% of those owners in Building 100 to vote in favor of repurposing. And that kind of opens the next step to funding and then executing on these projects. So it's a really critical task that we're taking on. Your board of directors, I know Chuck has been very involved in the bylaws, and we're going to pull him into this as well. As really, it makes great sense for all owners. Even if a small percentage may be displaced, it really helps the future sustainability and viability of the legacy, which is Bear Island Station. And a yes vote to that helps us do that. They've selected the partner in Joe Takis with Tobe. Our organization has worked very closely with Joe on full repurposing, full wind down, and partial repurposing, such as what's the case here at Bear Island Station. So we have worked really closely with Joe over the years. We have a good working relationship. We dance very well together, and we complement each other very well together to make sure the mechanics of the vote, the repurposing, all that goes along with that, as well as communication to those impacted owners and making sure that they're well informed. So that communication process is so critical. And then relocating those deeds that do transfer is another process where we coordinate and help him with that. So we've got a lot of best shared practices that we do collaborate on. A no vote, what does that mean? Well, that means Building 100 remains as it is today, and we explore other options of funding. So What typically happens during that process is those Building 100 owners have a lot of questions, right? What happens to my deed? What happens to my week? What is my unit going to look like? So we, in conjunction with Joe, host a series of webinars. They are recorded, so folks that cannot participate, there's a series of them that are really just a forum to communicate and educate owners on what the process is, how it works, and how they're impacted. So those owners, if there's any owners in the 100 building, you'll be well informed throughout the process. There's a lot of information that comes your way. We know there's questions. We make sure that we have the support and resources to provide that information to you. As alluded to, the contracts with TOB have been signed. The voting package, I believe, is complete and approved. And the next step will be to get that out there, communicate that to those owners, and hope for that 75% or greater participation. How do we get there? A survey was sent to the Building 100 owners, really to start looking at, if we get the yes vote, the reassignment can happen, they can move to a different interval, just to start educating them on what that process looks like and what they can expect in anticipation. And that's it for updates on that. So thank you.
Thank you, John. And Joe couldn't be here today, Joe Takis. I know you all know Joe. And I'll just say I heard a question from the back before. We did get a very large participation back, Joe did, in regards to the survey. And so they're actively working now on trying to map everyone up. We are extremely close at this point and working with the attorneys on getting the voting package. The legal components of this are really the killer, to be honest with you. But we're very close to making that happen. So I just wanted to reiterate that. The next part of this is the election. We've got a different component in addition to the director's election. Because we got the bylaws votes and we've now moved into, the current times, we're able to expand the board. We had a lot of questions of people wanting to be able to get on the board. We welcome people. We would like to get more people involved. We'd like to get, of course, younger people also involved if they'd be willing to come in and join. I've gotten letters from folks who have now purchased the weeks from their family members, and they're bringing their children, and they look back at all the funds and memories that they had and shared with their parents coming up. This is really a family resort. The majority of the folks here come every year. They don't do the trades. So we're happy and excited to do that. And in order for us to basically expand to 7, the bylaws now allow us to go either 5 or 7. We'd like to expand it to 7 next year, and we'll need to have to take a vote from those that are here in order to do that. So just so everyone is on the same page, we're going to have 2 elections. One is the election to expand for, it won't be 2026, it'll be 2027. The bylaws state that we have to vote on the preceding year in order to do that. So for 2027 elections, we'll be able to expand to the board of 7, and I hope there's going to be enough people also to come and join us to expand to the board of 7. So I'm going to ask Austin to come up and do that, and then we'll do the 2026 election for the board of directors.
Thank you, Denise. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to pose a question, and the question will have it'll be a yes or no question. What I'm going to ask you to do, if you want to vote yes, is to raise your hand. I will then move on to those who wish to vote no, and I will ask those who wish to vote no to raise their hand. Simple question. The first grouping will be those who wish to vote yes, okay? And I'm going to ask you to keep your hands raised so we can tally. Shall the number of directors for the Board of Directors for Barrier Island Station Interval Ownership Association be set at 7? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. I need an enumerator here. All those in favor, all those not in favor of raising the number to 7, raise your hand. I think that's pretty clear, huh?
Any abstain? Any abstain? I don't think so.
Does anybody just abstain because they don't like the question? Okay. I know. It's a barrel of laughs, let me tell you.
All right. Now on to 2026. This is the election for the upcoming year's Board of Directors. And just again, to remind everyone of the requirements for this, you need to be an owner in good standing, willing to attend 3 or 4 on-site meetings a year, including the annual meeting, plus the annual meeting, I should say. We have monthly conference calls. If necessary, provide fingerprints and pass a state of North Carolina background check if we, and also execute a conflict of interest document policy. We just look for people to have sound business judgment and to be able to work with us to make decisions and deliberate. So that's the requirements. This is a very hard-working board, just want everyone to know, and I think you guys have that idea. This year, we have 3 positions, nominations here for a 2-year term, and actually, it's a 2-position. It's a 2-position, 2-year term this year. So the nominees this year are going to be Pete L. DeFur, Carmen DiGiovanni, Treasurer, and Rich Finelli, the Secretary. So I'm going to ask Pete to come up and say a little bit about himself and why he'd like to be a member of the board.
Good morning. It's good to be in Duck. So I'm standing here because in 1990, after my family moved to Richmond, my 11-year-old daughter filled out one of those postcards. Come see this place, and we'll give you, whether it was 2 or 3 nights and a few meals in Duck, North Carolina, where I had been as an undergraduate, where the road ended in Duck. So that's who I am. I'm a husband, father of 2 grown daughters, grandfather of 5. All of them have been in Duck before. We spent, the first 10 years of ownership coming back here every summer, as many of you did. I'm a retired professional environmental scientist. So I've conducted my own business, served on a number of boards, and that material is in my bio that I answered the questions. What have I done? So I'm basically an environmental scientist. And I've worked at the national and international level and at the local level. In my business, for the last 20 some odd years before I retired, was working with community organizations over their community issues, over contamination and environmental problems. Many of them were river keepers and sound keepers, so those are people that I know really quite well. And the reason I put my name in as a potential board member, and hope you'll support me, is because I've served on boards. And I know that sometimes you keep serving and you keep serving because nobody else is willing to step up and give you a break, and I'm willing to step up and give some people a break. I bring some new perspectives over the 35 years that we've been members of timeshare community. We've had timeshares in Australia and all over this country, in places I would return to and places I don't want to see again. But this is not one of them. I mean, we are one of a very few number of timeshares on the Outer Banks, and we're the best. And I want to make sure that I take my responsibility seriously to make sure that we're still the best. So that's why I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
All right. I'm going to ask Carmen to come up next, and then followed by that will be Rich.
I never met Pete before. I didn't realize we have something in common. I also have a daughter who filled out one of those cards that got us down here, so yeah. Yeah. And she still comes every year with her family, so yeah, so she's a winner as far as this place is concerned. Anyway, I think you know who I am. I've been in this position since 2014. For those of you who were here 2 years ago, you heard me get up and stand at this podium and say that I did not intend to run again. Yet here I am. I do believe in board turnover. One of the reasons to expand the board to 7 is to get some additional thought and insight and talent on the board. I do think sooner or later it's time for me to move on. I will stand for re-election now and ask for your vote, partly because of the things we have going, and I have my hands in a lot of these things that are underway. But it doesn't mean that there aren't other talented people out there who could do this. I think one of the things that this expansion will allow some overlap if someone comes onto the board next year. Especially with a financial background, I will say that would be very beneficial to have that talent here. I'm also getting older, so I'll be 79 in January, so the clock keeps ticking. But I'm willing to stay. I want to stay at it here. I have unfinished business as far as I'm concerned with what we're doing. I would like to see the 100 building through to fruition. I think that's extremely critical in terms of our success, our ongoing success. We have, as an organization, as I've said before, we have very little ability to raise capital on our own on the outside. We can't just go and get a home equity loan or remortgage the property. It doesn't work that way. So we have very few options. This is the best option we have right now. I've been heavily involved in the negotiations with Tobe and Joe. I actually was the one who brought the whole concept of repurposing to the board starting in 2017, just as an idea of something to discuss when I had learned about this process, how it worked and what the potential returns are or could be to an organization such as ours. So it hasn't been worked on since 2017, but it's been an idea since 2017. And as we've progressed, as our ownership has declined, unfortunately, as we have excess capacity in our structure, except for the summer, that's the problem here. But we should look for ways to rationalize the property as best we can that returns money to those of us who are still here paying the bills. So I'd like to see that through for 2 more years. And I appreciate your vote if you have that confidence in me. Thank you very much.
Thank God I only have to campaign every other year. So, but yeah, it's really been my distinct honor over the last 4 years serving on this board. It's a very hard-working board, as Denise was saying. And I was thrown into the fire when I first started on this board. You know, being an architect, you know, they really tapped into my knowledge and experience in doing some value engineering on the rec center. And I remember drawing on the back of a piece of tracing paper, you know, how we could redesign the rec center to bring it a little bit closer into our budget. And you know, they were able to do that. The architects were able to do that. And you know, I've been involved very closely with the development of the drawings of the rec center and also with the upgrades of the unit, the interior units. But, you know, our work is far from being complete. You know, there's a lot more work to be done, and I would like to see that through over the next 2 years as we do the repurposing of Building 100 and also finishing up the interior upgrades, you know, throughout the other buildings. So, you know, I feel like my contribution as not only an architect but also a business owner for 40 years is still very much needed, you know, by the board. So I appreciate your support. Thank you. I think I just clicked the wrong button on the slideshow.
If you want to vote?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here we are. So you should all have a ballot, but actually before we do that, we do allow for someone that may have not had an opportunity to request to be on the board to do write-in. So is there anyone else that would like to be on the board or run for the board this year? Oh, okay. Anyone else interested? All right, I'll take that as there's no other takers this year. Your time will be in 2027, and I take it you're going to wait till we expand. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and ask for the team to present the ballots to the folks. We're going to take a 15-minute, fill out your ballots, and then we'll take a 15-minute break. We're actually ahead of schedule, which is always a good thing. And then we'll come back and have Q&A while the ballot is going on, the voting.
If you mailed in your proxy, they've got it, and unless you need it back. Yeah. Yeah, the ladies have come out.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Yeah.
How do we, since you're the manager, how do we submit changes or offer advice for the resort? For example, like, yeah, you put TVs in the 500 building that we're staying in?
What was in the 800 building?
Oh, no, there's TVs in the master, in the 500, you put 32-inch TVs on a 20-foot wall.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's, like I said, that stuff, was done long before, I got there, but for any suggestions at all,
Okay.
I can give, if you look at any of the owners' updates every month or whatever,
We do.
my email's right there. And
Okay, all right.
I'll even give you my phone number, even right now, if you want.
I'm not upset. I like the TVs. I just think they need to be brought in and put on a swivels. A $60 swivel on the wall.
No, and actually,
Cut the distance.
if we want to say what real TV upgrades, quote unquote, have been done, have only really been done in the 800 building so far. Eventually, hold on a second, sorry, I got to
No,
take
go ahead.
this.
Yeah, knock yourself out. Nope, I'm...
Technically, the 800's the only one that's really been upgraded. The living rooms, we're going to be trying to get the 55-inch TVs in all the living rooms, and then in the bedrooms is where the smaller TV should go.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. The small TV in the bedroom.
Yeah, smaller TVs that will go in the bedrooms. But
It's like looking at a computer monitor on the wall from across the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. It's stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right, I'll shoot you an email.
Yeah, man. I mean, and like I said, that's all you have to really do. And
I'm not complaining. I like the TVs. I just think they need to be. We turned them on last night, and I'm like, I can't watch that. That's
just because of the size of it.
right. The size, yeah.
Yeah, and
But if
typically,
it was,
typically most of them have 43 at the smallest usually, not always. Some of them still have 32s.
Yeah, I think that's a 32.
And it's something that has to be, again, something has to be actually planned for budget-wise to make happen. But yeah, we are starting, like I said, in the living rooms, all the living rooms, 800 building, A and B. Then we're going to start, like I said, in the 700 once we move forward.
Well, I have 703, so I'm excited to see what that's going to look like next summer. That's
701 to 706. What happened was, 701, 704 were the only two that were initially going to be renovated because of the flood, and then once the board realized that the renos weren't going to happen this fall, they said, well, listen, what can we use? Listen, while we had the patient open in that 701, 704, they're just going to go ahead and replace the Quest Plumbing and do the renos in that whole single building, 701 through 706.
Yeah, that pod right there.
Yep.
Yeah, we own 703 and 711, so we're excited. Yeah, all right, I'll send you some.
No, sounds good, Matt. It's good to meet you, sir. Yep.
When we go to Q&A part, one of the things I should have mentioned earlier is when someone is asking a question in the audience and they're not on the microphone, to repeat that question.
Oh, okay. To repeat it when they get to the microphone.
Yeah, well, so we probably won't need it when they're on this mic, but like earlier when people were asking questions and folks would answer, the people online can't hear it.
Oh, okay. So actually, yeah, if we respond, we'll say, if we don't hear them, we'll repeat the question.
Please, that way people online can hear it. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, after you, Austin. I always yield to the better man. So,
Say what now?
I'm going to give you my wife's number. Would you let her know that, please?
you bet, Austin. Glad to do it.
So, explain to me this plumbing failure. What happens to this piping that has to be replaced? Does it just split open on us? Or?
Well, it's the Quest Plumbing. Evidently, it was the rage like back in the day, when they all had it, and it was used everywhere. Everyone used it. So basically, what they found out is over the course of time, that Quest Plumbing gets super brittle and all of that, and you could have a piece of Quest Plumbing with no real physical stress, like at a joint or anything, and all of a sudden it would just fail. I mean, it would get a pinhole in it or whatever, or just start splitting apart, and you have no warning, no nothing. You don't have to do anything special, and the stuff just starts failing.
So it just basically it ages out to the point of brittleness where it's not structurally reliable.
Yep, where it's not structurally reliable, and and we end up getting leaks. That's what happened with units 318A, 318B. They were renoed, a while back, because I don't know. I wasn't the general manager then, but they were renoed, and I believe they were renoed to, kind of like as a model unit, whatever. And less than a month after they were renoed, Quest piping broke in the unit up above and flooded those units again. Less than a month. So, ever since then, the board has kind of said, you know what? We just are not going to move forward with the renos. They're not going to move forward with those renos unless they can
stopped
on the 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, it's the plumbing failure. Yeah, it's the plumbing failures that we are having. Almost all of them end up being because of the old Quest piping. And every building on the property has the Quest piping except the 400 and the 100. So the 400 is the only building that does not have Quest piping.
Let me switch topics on you there. Our units, we own 701 and 705.
Yeah.
And in our units, we've had several of the units where the flooring's failing, where the subfloor actually has apparently. In the 701 units, I'm sure it was because of the flooding.
Yeah.
That subfloor just disintegrated. But it's actually mushy. You step on there, and I'm assuming that when we're doing the renovation, we're going to replace that.
Well, they'll have to when they see it, because if they see it and notice it, it's stupid not to take care of,
I know at one point they repurposed or they refloored the flooring in 701A in the powder room, 701A, and they didn't replace the subfloor. So the new flooring was just as spongy as the old. So I don't have a lot of confidence
that
people's noticing.
Yeah, that they're going to notice that. Well, that's something now I can look at, and see what the quote unquote what the scope of work is for the renovators, Jenkins. But since I work closely with them, I can put that in their ear just to say, hey, when we are doing those renos in there, this is something that and I can actually see. We can see if it's if it was bid in the scope of work to address any flooring issues, in there.
I would hate to see new flooring put over those beds.
Yeah. Well, that's what
I know at least 701 and 702 have those problems. And the subfloors, the subfloors actually deteriorated, so it's spongy.
Yeah, that's like I said. That's something that I can take back to Jenkins, because they haven't done anything with the flooring yet. Even in 701 and 704, they've not done anything there yet because we've been waiting. They've been waiting on an engineer's report for exterior stuff on that 700 building, and then now they'll be able to move forward.
That place is flooded twice.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have pictures I came from the flooding the first time. The water was literally 4 feet deep in 701B. I mean, it was up over the countertops.
Oh man, yeah. Was that back in?
I don't even remember how far back
it was. 11, I think. That may have been like 2011, which I wasn't on property then. I've been there since 2017 is when I started here at Barrier Island.
Is Bill still around?
Bill Weeks is still here. Yep.
Bill's been so good to us over the years. We like if I could put in a good word for Bill, I'd put in a good word for Bill.
Mark is catching up. Nobody has to talk to us all the time. He had interaction with insecurity.
You're stepping into a big role to follow it. Because Walter did a pretty good job. He didn't mess up too bad.
His moments.
Well, don't we all? Except for maybe Mark, who's not entitled to have any moments.
I am,
Mark will admit his moments.
and I expect those moments, but I learn from them. I own them, and I learn from it. And we'll move forward and do better, the next go round.
So you're ahead.
You're
ahead of most of us then.
Well, my background is, because like I said, I'm ex-military, ex-police officer, and then I managed huge warehouses for a bunch of years, managing the shipping and sortation operations. I don't know how I had that career change. I don't even know.
That's quite a leap.
Just happened. Yeah, it was quite a leap.
Like they say, we learn from our mistakes.
Well, I don't pretend to be, but yeah.
100 building.
Uh-huh.
So, how many weeks or total? What's the total number of votes possibly being?
Oh, gosh. I think there's, from what I heard, because like, I don't know the exact number, but I think there's, from what I heard, there's like 917 owners.
Are owned by the association.
Oh, I don't know. What
interesting.
Walter might know that.
It'll be interesting to go through and say, okay, this number is association,
Yeah.
this number is delinquent.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
Can you vote as association delinquent?
No. I can tell you that. I can tell you that answer is no. The answer on if someone's an owner, and let's say there's 900 so owners in the 100 building. If 400 of them are delinquent or in collections, guess what? By North Carolina law, they're allowed to vote, and the association doesn't vote it for them. They
To get rid of them to be able to vote.
So you know, well, yeah, and like I said, I have no idea what I mean, really, what the board, because I've never even seen the contract that the board and Tobe have entered into, but every single detail and question like that is all spelled out in that contract. Yeah. Yep.
Have done conversions of apartment complexes to condos.
Uh-huh.
So that's not too bad in North Carolina. So when you
Yeah.
have an architect, draw the whole thing, then you've got to identify in the building the space that you're making into condos.
Yeah.
So that's not terrible.
Yeah.
But if you change any of the walls or construction,
Oh yeah.
they have to bring it up to current codes.
Oh
If
yeah.
they don't,
Yep.
my
Yeah.
condo in the building, it only cost me $10,000.
Yeah.
18-unit condo.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, once if they, like I said, I believe that everyone truly believes and is pretty confident that they'll get what they need eventually, however long it takes. But what once that happens though, and the building is sold, Tobe Joe, he can do then whatever he wants with it. I mean, he can. So it'll be up to him, and like I said, it'll pretty much just be up to him what he's going to do with it and how he's, so that all of that stuff would all be left up to him, and basically the 100 would turn into a quote wholly owned units, just like the 200 building is. 200's wholly owned, 119 and 401, they're both wholly owned. Yeah, and of course, those whole owners, they of course pay way more fee-wise, whether it's a special assessment or an annual fee. They own all the weeks, so they end up paying a very large sum. Basically that they literally have to pay monthly instead of a year. And yep. Yeah. How you doing? Yeah.
Well, we were talking about how you get new owners in and you get people to buy the units that are available. When we come, so we also have a place over at Outer Banks Resort. And when we go there, they have not only a board when you walk in and check in, you can see the prices of those units, and then you can walk around and see where those units are. But if you need it, you actually have a printout to see, because a lot of my generation and younger are not familiar with the timeshare.
Oh yeah.
And have been even negative information about owning timeshare.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of our generation is so busy. We're making money. We don't have the time to plan vacations, figure out where to go, all these kind of things. And if you own the timeshare, or at least see the price of it, you go, well, that's cheaper than buying a house up here. That's cheaper. Even if we're coming in
Well, they have because, and the thing is, the board still contracts, I think, with MVP, and that's Joe. He provides us nothing with what's available and all of that. Now, there's a lot of stuff listed on the owner's website, but what I can do, just, let me reach out to Joe and just see. And because, like I said, even corporately, we own nothing. Capital Vacations, whoever is the property management company, they own nothing. But the association, you as owners, literally, the association owns X amount of units, and yeah, it'd be good to have something like you say to where you can, hey, here's a list of what we have right now or whatever, and yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Well, that's. Did you hear him say we've had the biggest rental year ever? Yeah. 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 And that was something that Joe used to kind of, I think, at one time provide to us. And all of that. Yeah. But it would be. You're right. It would be a good. Well. No, it's something that I have to get with Joe first, though. I have to see how we go about. It's not a hard thing to do. I just need to know who keeps current with all of that data and information, because somebody does, and usually Joe does. Joe kind of manages all that for the board, for the association. So that's all I got to do is just get hold of Joe and see what info I can get, and like I said, well, exactly, because that's the key. One of the keys for the timeshare industry, just as a whole, is how can you grow your actual owner base, and so much of the industry now, though, is going to the business model now. Almost is all they all want the vacation club thing. They don't want the old-fashioned quote traditional timeshare type thing, legacy thing. They almost all, the industry itself even now pushes for the vacation club thing, and the legacy resorts just yeah. Well, people have an emotional attachment to these legacy resorts. You've got almost all of them most of the ownership is long-term. Families have come here, the kids have come here, and now the grandkids are coming here, and all of that. And it's just not a place to just go to vacation. There's an emotional attachment, and that's why people should be passionate about it, because it's part of your life. It's part of your fabric of growing up here and all of that. So yeah. Yeah, no, like I said, they used to do it a long time ago. Yep. Yep. Sorry, I'm this stupid hanging on cough for like a month. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. People have an emotional attachment to the properties, and just so I don't forget it amongst everything, I'm gonna write it down, so I don't forget myself.
It's a small investment for advertising that can lead to greater success.
The 300 building, just in general, is similar to the 100. Seems like there was no rhyme or reason to what they did and how it was built and all that. It's like someone, and whoever built it, sat at breakfast one morning and drew it out on a napkin and then just threw it up, and because with stuff on the property, after age of buildings, 40 years old, now we're finding all kinds of things that are evident that the buildings, some of them and some of the ways they were built, wouldn't even be allowed today, and they're not up to code and standard and all of that, and a lot of those ugly things now with the age of the buildings are rearing their ugly head,
By the way, they say that they've completed the renovation of the 300 building, but then they have like $2 million or something in there for maintenance. What is that for? 'Cause mine building,
What do you mean for maintenance?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, it wasn't specific. There was nothing specific to the 300. No. Those units, they were renovated a couple years ago to the scope that we were able to renovate them, and 6, 7, and 8 still have had nothing done to their units at all. Well, and there's issues. Yeah, it's not. I don't think you're going to see it in there unless it was on the. Yeah. Yeah. Look at your packet maybe and see.
You just focus on, let's get the young people. Sorry, Mark.
Yep.
I
But
don't want to get you off track.
no, it's all right. Well, hey, the younger people are the future of the resort and all of that. I mean, they are. So, okay. No, thanks so much. It's good to meet you. Well, yeah, I didn't have some even hours. So. Yeah, he's saying like even in mine, some of the slides weren't in the packet that they got.
Yeah, that's a mini deck. They didn't.
Is that stuff all on
The full deck is on the website.
So it's on the owner's
This was
website.
only printed the highlights because some of it's fluff, and we didn't print the fluff. That's $1,000 worth of printing that we already did. Yeah, but it's already. Yeah, if you go to the website, your owners, everything's there. Yes, sir. Denise, you want me to announce? Yeah. Everybody, We're going to go ahead and start the Q&A section while the ballots are being counted. The way this will work is if one at a time come up to the microphone, state your name and your question, and then the panel here will do their best to give it an answer.
Well, I just told him to please get Amanda so you guys can go work with Well, I have 30 minutes, so hopefully, we have 30 minutes or so. If this doesn't work. Oh, I see, because we're doing it now. Yeah, okay. Okay.
So are we ready? Seem to be the first one. I'm Dee Dee Van Buren. I own a couple weeks, but one is in the 300 building, and my mom bought it, so I've had it for 40 years. My question is they said that they've completed their refurbishing, I see up there, for the 300 building, and yet they have in here plumbing for like $100,000. May I ask, what is plumbing? I mean, my unit needs work. So does anybody here know what kind of maintenance they are still going to do in the 300 building?
Yeah, that's just the part of the Quest plumbing that will need done when the repurposing happens, which we all hope that it does. It's getting in and taking care of the Quest plumbing in the 300. It'll be the same thing will happen for the 500, and then of course when the renos start in the 6, 7, and 8, it'll also address that Quest plumbing. So that's what it is. It's the Quest plumbing piece.
Okay, so that's just the plumbing part. My windows, by the way, in the 300 unit, they are not up to standard. They leak all the time. And I have requested almost for 10 years to say, somebody please look. I mean, we have come in when there's storms and there's like water running down the walls, and we have to call maintenance. So please look at the windows in unit 303 for sure, but in the dining room, because they leak. And I don't want to have structural damage. That's not good. So thank you for your time.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Lotaki, and my question is regarding the systemic mold issue that's affected all the buildings. So with this ongoing mold issue, it's a health risk for everyone, more so for those that are immunodeficient or immunocompromised and asthmatics. And it was just mentioned about water coming down the walls and water damage. So I really want to address this with you, John, because of the high level. Can you explain the policies and procedures for mitigating and removing this systemic mold issue? Because you've worked with a lot of units that are either in wooded property that gets damp, shore property that gets wet. What's your policies for mitigating?
Yeah, no, good question. First and foremost, I think when there's moisture identified, oftentimes we work in coastal environments, mountain environments, inland. When we hear the word mold, it's very general, right? So I'm not a specialist in mold. We typically will identify units. The first thing we try to do is find the source of where that moisture is coming from, and identify the source of where the moisture may be coming, basically the intrusion. So whether that's something that's coming through windows or doors or siding or roofs or decking, that's really kind of the first step. As we identify it, we also will, do visual inspection. And if there's units that look to be severe or concerning, we do have partners that we work with that specifically work in remediation. So we'll identify those units, we'll contract with those folks, make sure that the source is identified, that's been fixed before we spend money on remediation, cleaning, and then the sanitation process. So there's no one perfect answer, because the true focus is finding the source, understanding the source and addressing that first and foremost. So in maturing properties, especially in coastal towns, Barrier Island Station is one of the most unique and beautiful properties there is. It's sound to sea, built in sand dunes, very vulnerable to wind and to storms and to surge and rain. I think measures have been taken. I'm new to Barrier Island Station, but not to the business. I started in my role in January this year, but I've been in hospitality for about 25 years. So anytime there's moisture and intrusion, we look at that very seriously. First and foremost is the health of our owners and guests, right? We've got to make sure that they are protected, that the environments we deliver are clean, things are in working order. If we identify units that have issue, we map out a plan to identify source and then remediate and correct and bring back online.
So I do want to comment about that, because currently when there's a mold issue, maintenance will come in. It's just a stopgap measure right now to use a bleach solution to clean up, immediate areas. But in the earlier presentation about all the renovations that are going on, this is an infrastructure issue. So will they be looking at the roofs, the downspouts, the gutters, and then, because also when working with mold, sometimes most of the time, if it's absorbent or materials that can absorb moisture, sometimes that can't be cleaned. It just has to be removed, like drywall, subflooring it's wood products, carpeting. And I've really not seen any of that happen in any of the units unless they've done renovation or they've painted over the mold. And I've seen instances where the mold has been painted over, and what happens is the paint peels. So I'd like to see a bigger process happening.
Sure. My understanding, again, learning the history of the property, construction dates when buildings were brought online. They were brought online over a series of years. We're now, as a maturing resort, nearly 45 years old, so probably not uncommon to have some of those reported issues. I understand through the board and some conversations that there have been engineers brought in, there have been roofing specialists brought in, so there's always that investigative process each time it's identified. So hopefully that helps. But I think, to your point, a comprehensive approach and really keeping it as a focus, making sure we're tracking, doing the proper inspections. If there is surface things that can be treated, we take recommendation from the mold specialist. They've provided us with guidance on a two-step process. One is to clean, and then one is to actually kill the mold, because bleach and typical over-the-counter chemicals, they're just not going to do the trick. So those approaches we are taking, and we have identified units in that sense. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
This one is for Carmen, and maybe Walter and John. I'm Margie Ferguson, multiple unit owner, longtime owner. What roofs have been identified that need replaced, and is it in our current budget? I slept through that part. I didn't really sleep through it. Do we have? Did you say roofs? Oh, sorry. Do we have any roofs that have currently been identified as needing replaced, and is that in our budget?
I can start that, Carmen, if you like. Yeah, currently the only one that's been identified as needing to be replaced as of now is the roof of 703 pod, the whole pod. Building 300 has been inspected. It's been repaired several times.
Yeah.
Gallup Roofing, which is the largest roofing company here on the island, Mark had brought in, did an inspection.
Mm-hmm.
They said there's probably at least 5 to 7 years of life left on the roof based on the asphalt of the shingles. They looked at 400. We did not look at 100. I can't comment on that one.
No, we don't.
And because our approach was, one, do we need a new roof? And then the question is if we put a $100,000 roof on it, does it stop the leaks? And their answer is no, because it's coming from multiple sources. It's coming from windows. It's coming from flashing. But the only one today that's been identified that needs a new roof is the TPO roof on the building 703 pod, and it's $12,000 and built into the budget.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I asked that question because I own in the 300 building. And when we did the initial renovations in 14, maybe the first $1,295 assessment, the company hired did not do the proper work, and the flashings around the windows and things were not done properly. And they were allowed, this was not this board or this manager, but we're creating a pattern here. They were allowed to leave the property. 3 months after we were in 100 at the time, 300 when we were in there. 3 weeks after the renovations, it rains, and it's coming down around the windows and out the electrical socket in the bedroom. But that's kind of oversight, and why did we not have them come back? Now, that's old property, I know, but I'm creating a picture here. Moving on. This one goes to John or Walt, because you have Justin's job now. Corporate responsibility. In 2022, I asked for a swap out of the building 100 because I cannot stay in it. I am asthmatic, and I will be sick by the time I leave here. I was told that you all foreclosed on the wrong units, and it would be fixed. And I communicate regularly with Carmen, and he says, Justin says they're coming. Justin says they're coming. This is 3 years later. Answers, please?
It is in process. It has been very delayed. I know some legal issues.
Yet we
Carmen and
foreclosed
I
on
have-
others that we can use for rentals?
It is used for rentals right now, just because the deed has not been properly cleaned up and transferred to the HOA's name. Once that happens, those intervals are then clear to do exactly what that request is.
3 years worth.
So,
Okay,
and it is overdue, so.
kind of. Okay. Other questions? And this goes to oversight by the way, welcome back. I hear we have just rehired Capital Vacations as our new club, I think, because you're all here. That, I guess, was a process of some sort of interviews. So speaking to that, when we had our last renovations and some buildings were done, this is my personal observation, I don't feel that there was adequate oversight. Contractors were allowed to leave this place with blue punch list stickers still on the wall. I checked in that weekend, is how I know this. Internet nodes were hanging out. Mold had been painted over. I have pictures, if you'd like, the mold on the inside of the kitchen cabinets where the contractors had been. The unit had supposedly been inspected by our management team and released for occupancy. That's not, and we allowed the contractor, we paid him, and we let him leave site and can't get him back. That goes to oversight in the general property. Can we please comment?
I think part of that, Margie, part of that, especially when we went through, not so much when we went through the second round, the 400, because 400 was handled, 400 and then 4 units in the 300 were handled much different, a lot cleaner. What happened, and this is no excuse, but what happened in the 5 and the 3, the contractors ran, and I can tell you exactly, contractors ran way over. We were supposed to have those units back beginning of May.
Yeah.
We got them back July 4th weekend. We put in furniture the day on a Saturday, an empty unit, the day that a guest was due to check in. And so we got into a point where we had no choice to either open them up, put them back together, let people enjoy vacations, and then come back to them after season got through, or tell people we couldn't put them. I mean,
So who was doing, I know we had a project manager, we employed Clark Nixon to parole Clark Nixon, so we had a project manager from Clark
yeah, it
Nixon
should be
going
project
on.
manager, right?
Okay.
It is
So-
not, and I'm not, excuse for me, I've got a little background in it.
Yeah.
Mark's job should not be
No.
I don't know Mark's background, whether he's ever built a thing in his life. It shouldn't be his job, right? And it
No.
shouldn't be his job to go out to the pool that's getting ready to get renovated and say, hey, I'm a pool architect, I know this is right or wrong, right?
Well, did our property manager at the time, i.e. you, walk those units and look at them? Why would I open a cupboard and see mold growing up and
Yeah, I
Feeling
did. I did
pain.
with my, maybe I missed it. I mean, I did with my team. Like I said, the 400 building was much different. We did it, we were done with 400 by February, and we punch list from February till May, 2 units at a time. And we would go through them over and over and over again. The 300 and 500, we did not have that inspection process. We didn't have time, unfortunately.
The other thing I would like to address, during the past 2 years, I'm not going to win friends with this. During the past 2 years, there has been a fair amount of remote work by our manager and our assistant general manager.
I'll address that.
My turn first. I understand you're on your computer at home.
No, you
This
don't understand.
resort, or wherever you are, this resort cannot be managed remotely.
Right.
And I might ask, what kind of weekly huddles do you have with your entire team? Housekeeping, we just had a meeting at Seascape. They did a very professional presentation. This is great, I'm not banging on this presentation. But their presentation to the owners, every departmental head was present, spoke to what they had, what their scope of work was going to be for the upcoming year. How is that addressed here, and how do the owners know this?
I'll take part one. I'm going to give part two to Mark, so he's the on-site GM. I work 4 days a week.
Okay.
Yep, and the board allowed me to.
I understand
Yep,
that.
and I was the first one on property because I actually lived on property. I lived in a
know.
different unit every week,
We watched you
sometimes in
moving
my
it out.
office, right? That's why there's a futon in Mark's office right now. And so I work 4 days a week, first one on the property, last one to leave. I work 7 in the morning, I'd leave at 7 at night. I had nowhere else to go.
Walter?
So I put my 40 hours in on site, and when this started, I actually logged it, and I'd be happy to share the logs with you. And then I work
So
from
you
home.
were working in the evenings?
I'm sorry?
You were working in the evenings while you were here on property?
Our resort closes at 7 in the summer. Right. Yeah, I was the first one here every morning. I watched Bill and Jennifer come in at 7:25 every morning, and I was the last one to leave when our office closed. And I work from
I'm just going to
home.
tell you what it appeared like to me. You weren't here a lot.
Well, I beg to differ, and I'll pass the rest.
So do I. All right. I have one more. This is it.
Mark's going to answer the other part of your question about meeting with staff.
Okay, thank you.
No, we are, like I said, moving forward, we are instituting, weekly meetings with managers, all of my managers. It will not be a collective together. Maybe we might have a collective meeting with all the managers at one time, maybe once a month. But yes, that is very much a part of my agenda moving forward.
And I applaud you for
will
that.
have weekly meetings with each
It's much
manager,
easier
each
if we're
department.
just all communicating, and then I appreciate you doing that. I have one more question, and then I'm going to let some other folks talk. This is an easy
Excuse
one.
me, I'll just, state from my role, my expectation, I visit my properties quarterly at minimum, as well as participate in board meetings via Zoom, for those that are not on site. I talk to my regional directors on a regular basis, if not daily, scheduled weekly, and also with the GMs as we do monthly financial reviews.
Thank you.
My expectation for our regional directors is to be at each of their assigned sites, boots on the ground, working across all departments. And a lot of that is, trying to improve efficiency, trying to improve standards, implementing processes that work to make sure that we're delivering a good product. So I expect them to be on site monthly. And that they're speaking with their general managers and site teams regularly. As we cascade to the site level, the expectation is, the GM, the assistant general manager, all the department heads, work in collaboration, that they are respectful of one another, that they communicate openly, that they are having regular meetings. There are things called daily huddles.
Yeah.
When you have a smaller staff, they're interacting throughout the day. Whether that's in person or on a radio or a meeting at the start and end of the day. So those checkpoints. More formally, Mark and the general manager at each of my sites should be meeting weekly with each department head and talking about what are open projects and what the expectation is for that week. And if they hit any road bumps, because, hospitality can change directions very quickly, that they navigate and they understand that communication's open so that they continue to work towards accomplishing those
excellent
goals.
plan.
So
I
thank you for that question.
Okay. This is an easy one. Carmen, how many Of the 100 units, are there owners that we can't find or that would impact our ability to clear the 75% needed, or do we know where everybody is? And
To Margie's question, basically, is do we know the status of all owners in the 100 building? We know who pays, we know who's delinquent, we know who are fictitious owners, as scammers or things such as that. I personally don't have the numbers in front of me here, but we can get that. It's in the system that John referenced, the SBI system. There are a certain number that are in the wind. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, they're dead, or,
but
you know.
I could share with you our experience with the termination votes, where we needed the same type 75% hurdle. We had overwhelming response from the paying owners. But we also, interestingly enough, had significant response from delinquent owners. And they voted in the affirmative at something like 90%.
Okay,
yes,
awesome.
and 10% no on that. The other owners voted for something like, on average, 96, 97% yes on the termination. Okay. So despite being delinquent, we had, I would call them involved or interested owners. For a delinquent owner in regards to the 100 building, this is a potential exit for them in terms of possible loan forgiveness, surrender your deed. This is the process that TOB will have to work through once the vote is taken. I mean, they have to get the vote first, but this is how they'll get the vote. I mean, it could be proposing, give us your deed and a vote, and we'll forgive your deed. Give us your deed, your vote, ideally a few dollars, we'll throw in the treasury if you can squeeze it out of some of them. There will be some that are just not findable. And, but that's how we attack the 75% hurdle with the termination. That's probably the same process we're going to use with the 100 building.
That's really encouraging. Thank you.
Hi there. Kylie Ferguson. We own a couple weeks. Couple questions. Can you explain the specific cleaning process? I know that we do allow emotional support animals and we do allow therapy animals. Can you explain the specific cleaning process that is used following in those units when those animals are on site? For those of us that have extreme allergies to cats, for example, what is the process used to clean those units following that? And also, can you explain how that is communicated to the housekeeping staff? The reason I ask that is I have actually asked the housekeeping staff here on site because we have checked into a unit following that, and I will say I have severe allergies to cat, like have to take multiple medications, and have checked into a unit following that, and had multiple allergies following that, and have been on property for multiple weeks following that, and checked into a unit immediately following someone with an emotional support cat on site and watched it not be cleaned properly, or any additional cleaning, and the housekeeping staff report that it was not cleaned any differently.
Well, we are currently, working on an actual policy. I know the board has some questions, that they have because, this has been a topic that's been brought up here, a lot recently. So we're working on an actual internal process so that no matter if it's an emotional support animal or service or an animal, which happens most often, is no one knows that there's an animal in a unit. People will bring whether it's an owner or a guest, they'll bring animals in, and we don't know that they're there. And that happens, I would say, most often, not just part of the time, most often. So, but no, we're working on, like I said, an actual internal policy so that we can address this appropriately, no matter what type of animals there. And we're going to, get that finalized literally and get it into place, get it into action.
Okay.
You want to elaborate on that because the question as I'm hearing is what is the process that we're currently following when cleaning the rooms behind the pets? So
What is the current process that's in place is my big question.
Yeah, right now there's no different process, and that's why I'm saying we have come up with an...
So there is no current process in place for it?
I think right now what Mark said was currently the cleaning company that we hired, the third-party company, goes into the unit, they'll probably clean deep like they do for every unit, but they'll look for visual dander, fur, things like that. I look at it, as a high level, and my role is, one is what's the policy? Is it compliant with statute? Has the association council vetted that policy and given legal recommendation to the board to then adopt said policy? So I think that's step one, which is in motion. We've used a policy, whether it's ADA or emotional support. So I think those are two very different things, right? One is governed by federal law. One could be very realistic, but we do see abuses on the emotional support side across all hospitality. Policing of it, if we know, we should define our cleaning process, or we're working with our cleaning vendor to do that. There typically is additional cost. So the second part of that is, can we charge that owner who has said emotional support animal or not? And that's an area that you want to be very sensitive to, very cautious of, because there are protections for individuals, and rightfully so. So I think all of that will really, help address an issue which is not only here at Bear Island Station, but impacts a lot of hospitality operations. And somebody that suffers from allergies, I told you pine and things like that, but I'm not allergic to dogs. I have 2 beautiful labs, but I'm highly allergic to cats. So I can certainly relate with you on that.
Thank you. I do have one additional question, and it's more of a suggestion. So I know, and I'm very happy y'all are implementing a system to track maintenance requests, and I know you mentioned you're going to be standardizing some of the kitchen inventory in the presentation. Is there going to be any system in place to track some of like the kitchen inventory or things as we standardize that across the system? Like I know it's archaic, but we used to have something upon check-in like years ago that tracked, like when you checked in, you had 8 forks in your unit, 10 plates, et cetera, across the system. Is there going to be anything in place that, like on check-in, members would check in and like complete a unit inventory or anything in place with that?
No, as far as I know, there's not, I know we used to have, a while ago, a checklist and all of that, but that is part of the normal housekeeping function. And if that's not being maintained properly in between units, then that would fall on my responsibility, literally, to follow up with housekeeping, which I do have a very good, relationship with them. So that is something, though, that is supposed to be done, on turnover days. Anytime a unit's turned over, cleaned, that inventory is supposed to be checked and all of that. So, and then, like I said, that's on me to monitor and like I said, get feedback back to housekeeping if that's not happening.
So just kind of a general thing, and like I said, we do own multiple units here, but we see various discrepancies on what is in units, and I know it's not been standardized yet, but there are various discrepancies on what is in units and what is throughout the resort. But there could be a really simple, you could use Microsoft Forms or something really simple with a QR code so that owners could implement that, or it could be implemented and tracked very easily. So.
And I think to that point, like setting the expectation and the standard, right, is each unit has this core supply of amenities. And then based on unit size and number of occupants, then your plateware, your glassware, your silverware reflects that accordingly. So depending on whichever unit type you're in, the standard, hopefully we get to a point where we have all the same stuff across property, and then the proper counts for each unit type based on the number of occupants that are going to use that unit. So, that's where quality control, inspections, and training on the front end come into play. So,
thank you.
My name is Mark Wilson, and we own Unit 416, and we've been owners since the 1980s. So we've been in that unit for quite a long time. Even though we've enjoyed the new flooring and the new sofa downstairs, and we love the new upstairs bathroom, we have real concerns over the statement that the buildings 300, 400, and 500, the interior upgrades have been completed. The downstairs bathroom has not been touched. We have original furniture in the bedrooms, with the dressers are falling apart. The bar chairs are the originals, because I bought in the 1980s, with the same stains that have been there for years. Furniture has been removed from the dining area and not replaced. The chairs that were supposed to be in the new living room had never arrived. So we just have concern about that statement, interior upgrades completed in the 300, 400, and 500 building. Now, has there been a change in the description of the upgrades that I've not heard of? Or, and I know money is an issue, but that's just a concern that we have.
Yes, sir. When we originally started this, we remodeled Unit 507, which I think everybody knows is the model, and did everything soup to nuts, cabinets, bathrooms, everything we could touch. And 2022, I think we did that. And what we found, unfortunately, is if we did that in every unit, that renovation cost was between $13 and $14 million. The assessment that was done collected $8 million, and a portion of that was earmarked for rec center, sprinklers that had to be done in the 3, the 4, and there's a few other small things like the beach boardwalk. So I think what Rich had said earlier in his speech is, and I hate the term because we used it for 2 years solid, is value engineering. And we went through and we started with everything and then just backed down. And there was a scope developed late 22, early 23, posted to the website of every building, what to expect in the A, what to expect in the B, what to expect in the 3 and the 4, 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom. And most of them were like bigger items that we knew we couldn't come back and do. You know, you can always pull out a bar stool, put a new one in. But it was like floors, paintings, walls, damage to walls. There's a lot of bad patches over 40 years, doors, the bigger item, more infrastructure type items. And then the idea was we can always come back and grab as funds allow, which is, and the sofas, obviously, the sofas was a huge one. That was one you couldn't dismiss. But like this is like now we're talking about, I think John mentioned it, going back and putting the media cabinets in, right? So there's start putting these pieces back into these units. The big, the big elephant when it comes to renovations is kitchens and baths. That's a big number. And you know, media cabinets are $600. You know, that's not that. It's a big number, but it's not as big. But kitchens and baths, kitchens on A side's $11,000. Kitchen on the B side's $4,200. That's 2 years ago numbers. So those are the big ones that I don't think we have an answer for yet, unfortunately.
So more accurately, we could say a modified upgrade has been
Yes, sir.
completed.
Yeah, it's this stupid, value engineer. I hate the term, but.
And I know that this week we're actually in 402, which is the same building. Their downstairs bathroom has been renovated somewhat. I don't know why that, you know.
Well, it's as needed, right? So the renovations have been identified, right? So 507, if a toilet goes bad, we know what toilet to put in there. If a ceiling fan goes bad, we're not just grabbing a random one and sticking in. So we know what things to replace as we replace. But there's no systematic there was a little bit. I think we grabbed all the commodes in 500 building, upgraded them. As funds allowed to pay at the end of the year, if we had funds left over, we would go in and try to grab as much in that way as we could. Like 2 years ago in the winter, we did all the toilets in the 500 building. As 402 is a good example, all those vanities are built in. You can't pull them out there. They were built in. And so as one goes bad, you know, if something's wrong with it, breaks, we pull it out, we put the correct one that we want in when we remodel. Yes, sir. So you'll find little pockets like that throughout.
So who would we determine the need? I mean, we hate to have our grandchildren take baths in our downstairs bathroom because the bathtub
it would
is
start
so...
at our maintenance level. I mean, our maintenance level are the guys that are in there, and there should be the ones, or Mark's maintenance guys would be the ones identifying what can be repaired, what needs to be replaced. I mean, that's where the initial start would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. You guys already know me, but I'm David Hancock. My bride and I discovered the property in 2018 when we bought one of the timeshare units and absolutely fell in love with it. It's been an amazing property. In fact, we immediately bought a wholly owned unit in Building 200 and still enjoy that on a regular basis. But now we have 3 of the timeshares. So we feel very vested in this unit, in this whole property, and it is certainly amazing. And it's actually quite better than it was, when we first discovered it. So I'm very happy about that. I do have just a couple of questions, and it's kind of broad scope, but I'd love to just kind of finish a conversation that was started about the pet mediation. So thank you, Mark. We learned that there's no current protocol on following up the units that had pets. But Walter, I believe it was last year, it may have been 2 years ago, but last year you gave us, when that same question was asked, a very, very specific, maybe 15-minute long mediation process. It's recorded. Yeah, it's on video. You gave us a very systematic, this is what we do every time there's a pet. And you also said only the service animals were allowed. So we just discovered that's not true. So that's part of the problem that we're having with capital VRI, is that transparency, or the things that are feeling like it's being fed to us. Because you guys have amazing plans. And John, I love that you're involved now more than ever, because you're pretty amazing. But the plans are amazing, but the executions just aren't happening. So I just want to share that's frustrating, and since I am on the common area board, people come to me and I can't answer all the questions. So I always want to make sure that I give that feedback to you guys. So it doesn't necessarily need a response. It just needs to be understood that the way that we're feeling is that we've got great plans, no execution, and they're not being handled truthfully to us. So it's very frustrating. But yeah, please, go ahead.
And certainly, I don't have a long history here, but I would just say a couple of points. In my role and the way I lead my teams and support my teams, and that's, whether it's at the site level, or regional level, or, my peers that serve in a regional capacity, the commitments we make, we own those. And we have to deliver on that commitment. That is the basis of how we build trust. And if mistakes happen, which does happen in business and life, we need to own those. And we need to present the solution, and then that commitment is then delivered. So I can't speak to the past. I don't think that's fair of me because I wasn't here. But I can tell you, the reason why I was hired, and my sole focus is to make sure that we are delivering on the promises we make, and that we are the top management company in the space.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I know you're a solutions-driven thinker like I am, so it's good to hear that, so I appreciate you. All right, so a couple other things. On the remodeling, we also own in Building 300. So our unit has been remodeled, but we're seeing some issues that seems like it was not done very well, or in certain cases kind of done dangerously. For example, we do too have mold that's underneath paint that we're seeing. But one of the disturbing things is one of our ceiling fixtures failed, so maintenance went in to fix it and realized that after the remodel that unit and many other ones were electrical junctions were put in place that weren't put in junction boxes. In fact, our ceiling unit has exposed electrical wire just pressed up against the insulation and the wood, and then the fixture pushed into it. That certainly doesn't pass code. That certainly is dangerous. I would be terrified to know how many other units were there. So I'd love to know. It's said to be completed, but has anybody gone through to make sure it was done to code, to make sure it was done properly? And now that you're aware that there's issues in at least one, and I know for a fact it's more, can you put in place a plan to make sure that contractor comes back and finishes the job or does the job properly, or we remediate it ourselves? Because it is very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I can answer that, David. Yeah, certainly. For one, it's not one, right? It's every two bedroom in the 300 and 400 building, and every unit in the 100 building that has the post and beam construction, right? And I know this because they were built that way. It has nothing to do with the contractor. If you're familiar, which I think you are, of this unit, it's a beam, right? There's no trusses. It's a beam, and there's a 2x6 floor. So when you're in your dining room and you look up and you see those boards, That's the floor of your bedroom and your bathroom above. There's no space, there is no dead space in between. There is no insulation, there's nothing in between. And so what they did in past code at the time, and this building, right? Steve is our inspector, so we went through with Steve to make sure that we were correct. They didn't install junction boxes. They wired right through a beam similar to this right here, and they wire nutted it straight to the light and installed the light. So what we've asked Steve is, our inspector for the town of Duck is, what kind of time frame? One is, where are we at? Are we grandfathered in? What do we have to do? And what kind of time frame can we do it in? This was identified, I wish it would have been identified during construction, but it wasn't. It was identified by Bill Weeks, which I'm sure is where you got it. It's where we got it as well.
It was our unit, so we saw it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's where that is right now. It's actually in the hands of Duck to let us know what we can do. Are we grandfathered in? They obviously passed inspection by the county of Dare when they were built. Wouldn't have been Duck. So, you know, when you do a renovation, which is what we did, when we did floors, we do walls, you're not required to bring everything up to code. There's a certain limit where threshold you meet, then you start having to bring things up to code. Painting doors and floors is not going to bring you to that point.
Yeah, our light fixture was new, so of course I would assume
What was new, I'm sorry?
the light fixture was new, so somebody had taken it off and put a new light fixture in.
Yeah, so the light fixtures weren't replaced. If you go back and look on the website in the scope, there's no light fixtures being replaced. Now, they're being replaced as needed by our maintenance department. I wish if they had replaced that lighting department, that they probably would have said something versus waiting till now. But yeah, but no, if you look, no lighting fixtures were replaced in the scope.
All right. The second issue that we have in the building 300, and our unit included, is the flooring material was used on the stairs, and the contractor tried to roll the flooring material around the coping of the edge of the stairs. That material isn't designed to do that, so while it looked good for a short period of time, it's already popping, cracking, and coming up. Again, I think that a little bit of oversight, anybody who has any experience in oversight in construction could have been able to tell that contractor that is not something that could be done. So again, it's just part of our discouragement that there's a lack of oversight on the remodels. But I'll move on. One quick thing on the electric charging station. So I'm glad we discovered that we were accidentally letting everybody use it for free, so that's been stopped. So anybody want to know, your money's been going to filling up other people's cars, which is a great amenity for those who have the electric cars. But one of the challenges that I discovered was, in talking with the guard shack, is that it's a policy that we are allowing non-owners and non-guests come into the property to use the electric charging stations. Now it takes 3 or 4 hours, to charge up a car. So what does a family or somebody do for 3 or 4 hours on a beautiful resort? They, I would imagine, go use some of the facilities, which I think is a tremendous liability for us. I think in our building 200, we've got 2 charging stations, and it's clearly marked, on the Blink site that it's for owners and guests only. So I think if that is a policy, or if that's something that's slipping by, we definitely need to be aware of it. Because if there's an issue, as being a part of the board leadership, I think it's just something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, no, David, long before I ever, became general manager as the head of security, the policy has always been, since they were installed at the 200 building, that only 200 building owners or, property owners or their guests, actual guests on property, were allowed to use that. So
yeah,
if that's, I'm just saying, if that's what you were told by someone at security, that is incorrect. Because as long as I've been here and, they were put in the 200, it's always only been the policy, so.
Yeah.
Like I said, I apologize. If you were fed that information, because it is inaccurate, and they all do know that, like I said, it's just for owners and or their valid guests, and that's it. Because I've turned many of people away.
Good, thank
before,
you. And you're correct, that is a policy of Build 200, but I was referring to just the new rec center. So I was told that we don't need to go into, so as long as you're aware that it could have been happening in the past, we'd love for it to stop happening.
We can certainly address it.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
take care of it, yes, sir.
If you had something,
No, I don't. I know I've been advised, on the sake of time, we'll have 1 or 2 more questions.
Okay, I think I'm almost good. So some of the water problems that we're having, I think is because of the gutters, and I understand there's an issue with the gutters not being finished. I know a lot of the buildings still need it done. There might be some payment questions or concerns between us and the vendors, but I think that would eliminate a lot of our problems with the mold. It's just getting the water away from the building. So I would definitely encourage capital to the board to make that a high priority, because the less water hanging around, the less opportunity to be into mold. But thank you for listening to us and the opportunity to chat. The last question before I leave, I just want to mention or ask the question, really for the benefit of the owners, is, as it was brought up earlier, there was a opportunity for the board to evaluate potentially a new vendor to come in to replace capital. And there was an RFP, which is a request for proposal, that went out, and we got several things back, including you guys wanting to stick with us. And I had the opportunity to participate as the board president over at 200. And we went through a thorough, exhaustive plan to go through, evaluate, ask questions, talk to each other, and listen to presentations. And there was a clearly different path than what actually happened. So it became, at the end of it, that we decided to keep capital. I say we, I wasn't allowed to participate in the vote, but I was allowed to participate in the process, so I'm intimately aware. But I'd like for maybe one or two of the board members just to kind of share, because I can't answer the questions that's being asked of me, so I thought, what a great opportunity for today if one of the board members could share, even though all the factual information that was gathered differed from the answer that we gave at the end. I'd love for one of you guys just to share with us how we came up with the idea to stay with capital when that didn't seem like that's where we were going. And then I'll retire, but I'd love for somebody to address that.
Yeah, it was a process that we put a lot of time and effort into, looking at three companies in total that came in to be our new management team. And what came out of that was, I don't think we participated in a way that we followed the RFP that was designed, okay? When it came to the final decision on what was going to be made, we had a different outcome of what we got, okay? So the board wasn't 100% on what we were going to do. I think Rich and I would speak from the same voice of how we went with the RFP, and we got a different result. I don't think that was fair to the owners, because there were owners here that felt we needed a change in what we have. I don't know if you want to say anything on it, Rich? You don't, okay. But I think that the way it turned out wasn't the way it was supposed to, because of how the RFP was set up. It wasn't followed by design.
I can add one or 2 points to what Chuck elucidated here and what David is postulating. The RFP process, everything David said is absolutely correct. It was an extensive process. It wasn't as extensive as what we did several years ago. We didn't have the time for that, but we did go through a pretty extensive process. And the RFP process came up with what I would call a quantitative answer, a score, if you will, that ranked the three contenders. What the board then did was to consider not just the quantitative score, but qualitative aspects. There's a price to change. Everyone looks at the positive of change. There's a negative to change in terms of continuity, institutional knowledge, things along these lines. We went through a pretty agonizing process in 2019 when we changed. And we were also burdened, if you recall at that time, not long after VRI came in, we were hit with COVID. We lost our general manager here. We lost our assistant general manager in that period. We had the recreation center condemned, and we had 300 and 400 condemned because of the sprinklers. So the new management company had to tackle all of that, in the conditions at the time. So the debate among the board members, and I'll speak strictly for myself here, was to look at not just the quantitative score, but the qualitative aspects, the risk of change in addition to the benefits of change. And when the vote was taken, we opted to retain Capital Vacations. It's a one-year extension. So I would say the evaluation is still ongoing and will continue ongoing. We have a very, very viable second candidate company that We could activate pretty quickly if we have to. But think of this as for all intents and purposes, a year-to-year lease or a year-to-year agreement. We are not locked into any extended time period. We won't lock ourselves into an extended time period.
I would agree with Carmen, and I understand what Chuck is saying. The process was in-depth. I think David would attest to the fact that we had extensive discussions on it, and there was give and take on the board, and there was not universal agreement on the board. It's as close as a vote could be as to how we arrived at capital for a one-year extension. I understand exactly what Chuck is saying. I understand what David is saying.
So I think everyone pretty much covered it, and I'll just say that we followed the same process that we did when we made the first change over from SPM to VRI. There was 5 members on the board. We took input from everyone. When we did the first review, RFP, we also took reviews from Ocean Pine and anyone else that's there. So we invited the common area to join us because you guys are also a part of the resort. At the end of the day, we needed to make a decision. Do we change property management, given that we also had new property management changes within the organization? Was it going to be worth us to make a change unless there was a significant monetary value to do so? So what we decided to do was, as Carmen pointed out, we looked over all of the options that we had, and the majority felt that it was worth us continuing to pursue the existing property management. If it doesn't work out, we have an option in the back that we'll proceed to. So that's that. All right?
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay. And I'm going to say you just have, because we've spent almost an hour now on questions. We have a couple more things on the agenda. If you have something else that you want to ask.
Yeah, thank you. I think our overall lack of confidence is starting to really build up. So the more that you continue to pursue these solutions and keeping your mind open, we're grateful for you guys and the hard work. And I know firsthand that it's not easy work. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right, so at this time, I know you've probably been waiting patiently. If you just have one question, because we really need to go to the next thing. So I'll take one, just one. You're up in the wings here for the queue, or two? Just two? If it's just the 2 folks, that's fine, and then we really need to move on. There's somebody else that's behind you. Well, we also have a time frame in which we have to leave the building. Okay, go ahead, please.
All right, my name's Kenny Smith, and my wife and I own 3 different weeks. We own in the 100 building, the 400 building, and the 800 building. We have owned in the 100 building since 1990. 35 years is a long time. Carmen, I appreciate your mentioning that repurpose as a concept or as a word was spoken at least as early as 2017. Well, that's 8 years ago. And one thing I do strongly disagree with, and I own in the 800 building, so I own an AB unit. I think it is silly to think that everybody should pay the same maintenance fee. I own 114. It is, I think, probably the smallest unit. Well, okay. I think 116 is larger than 114.
Mine's 116, and I'll tell you, it is the smallest unit in the resort.
Okay. Black mold has been there for years. The idea of repurposing and coming, and I've been coming to meetings since we used to meet down in the hotel. I may not be noticeable to y'all, but y'all are very noticeable to me because I have seen your faces and I have heard the statements. We're working on this. This is in progress. I very respectfully and humbly suggest that adding 2 board members is a great positive step. I would suggest that possibly the current board consider the idea of not running for reelection. I understand if you're fully invested in something and there's something in progress, in process, whatever, to be able to follow it through, that has value. And I appreciate what has just been said about sometimes change can be very expensive. And so unless a change is clearly going to be for the good, you know, the old expression, there's no progress without change, but not all change is progress. So I get that. I understand that. But the 100 building, we have been hoodwinked into thinking that something was being done and nothing has been done. Nothing. And so don't try to pacify me by saying things are in progress. No, they're not. Why should I pay the same maintenance that I pay for the 400 building that has at least been quote unquote renovated? I'm not sure how y'all define renovation, because I'm not sure whether it includes removal, replace, restore. To me, renovate means bring something back to its original status. Well, that's not being done in the way the units are being quote unquote renovated. So the 400 building has supposedly been renovated. I've got water stains in both bathrooms. I checked in, and the tub in the main bathroom has water running, not a drip, a stream. Now, is it my responsibility to report that to y'all? Or is there a contract agreement with this third-party housekeeping that would tell you we've got a water leak? Now, we're on public water, so that's a part of our utility expense. We're paying for water. And there is a stream of water running out of the bathtub water spout. Now, whose responsibility is that? Is that mine? Because I come 1 week out of the year into that unit? I don't think so. And I haven't been told that. I didn't sign a contract that said I was responsible for that. And so, in the requirements to serve on the board, not only are there quarterly meetings, but I would expect that there be some level of communication between y'all throughout the year. Maybe in addition to a fixed quarterly meeting. We approve minutes of the members' meeting. We don't know who said what in y'all's meetings. We don't know when they said it. We don't know who's accountable for what. But personally, I've served on boards. I've served on boards of publicly traded companies. So I've had a lot of SEC scrutiny surround my life. And there is an accountability that includes the possibility as a CFO for a publicly traded company going to jail for misstatements. And so I'm not accusing anybody of lying, but I am challenging whether or not y'all are consistently truth tellers in a timely manner for issues that affect us when we're paying the dues.
So what I would say is, you know, my experience with this board is relatively new, right? So 9 months, 10 months. Probably start to get more engaged with them after first 45 days in the position. I've served on multiple boards. I've served in the developer capacity. Right now we are an employee of the board and the association. So we do serve you. I think as far as when we talk about quality, which if I hear a lot of, you know, connect the dots between some of the comments, a lot of it is inspection and accountability, right? So it's not the owner's responsibility to go and inspect their unit, to fill out a checklist, to tell us what's in there. Standards are established, and they should be in there, and they should be met. When it comes to things like leaking tubs and faucets, whether it's housekeeping, maintenance, or, Mark and Amanda who do inspections, should be looking for that, reporting that, creating a ticket system to where those repairs are being completed, and then a follow-up inspection to ensure, yeah, they have been done. So checks and balances and accountability. Correct. Communication, across those departments. It's not any one person's job. It's a shared job from the service team. As owners, if you do experience something in your unit, it only helps us if you let us know. And our response should be to document that, assign that task, make sure it's completed, to make sure that another guest doesn't experience it over and over and over again. So,
And Kenny, thank you, and I'm just going to also mention, in terms of transparency, communications-wise, we have a monthly owner update that we address every month, and there's always open lines of communication. So if you have questions or concerns, don't let them fester. You can come and speak with us directly. We have a very limited budget, and frankly, with the amount of money that we got for the assessment, we've said since day one, there is no way that we could totally renovate everybody's unit. And the words that we have used have not been renovation. We've carefully said upgrades, because we just can't do it. With the assessment that you paid, and if you go back and you look at the charts and the numbers from the beginning of time, we've stated, and we have on the portal with the work that was to be done, we stated exactly how the monies were being allocated. There was a portion that went to the sprinkler system. There was a portion that went to the bridge, the beach walk that we did. We had to do the recreation center. So initially, when we were planning initially to just do an upgrade to the units, that had to be stopped, because then unfortunately we were hit with a condemned recreation center. So we had to do the recreation center. So when I spoke earlier, when I talk about we always have to do more with less, I know everyone would like to see everything back to when they bought it in the 80s, but we don't have the money to do that. And every time we peel back a wall or we do something, we end up having to spend more money, and that's why we get into overruns. If it was a perfect world and we got an estimate, we'd be able to complete the things the way they are. We're not trying to deceive anyone here, and we've got an open door. So if you want to join and get on the board, feel free to do so. Feel free to contact us if you want to come and sit at any of the meetings, because we've worked very hard to get this place where it is. And I know each and every unit isn't perfect and isn't what it is, and I understand the concerns of the 100 building. We're trying to keep the property afloat so it's not acquired. A lot of other places have folded up. We are looking creatively to try to find other ways to get revenue, and other ways to get revenue, frankly, without having to do another assessment, which is the reason why, as working through this, we looked and finally decided that we had to do something with the 100 building. So I'll just want to say, anytime anyone has a concern or they feel that they want more transparency, let us know. But we work in this volunteer job that we have to try to maintain this property and keep everything moving in a positive direction. So with that, I'll ask you, sir, to stay tuned. Okay.
Just to clarify what I believe is a misconception, we don't just meet 4 times a year. We meet in person 4 times a year. We meet every month on an extensive conference call. I can assure you that the average conference call length is 2 hours. 2 hours. That's once a month. Beyond that, and I'll speak for myself, I put an additional 20 hours each weekend as a board member. What am I working on? I'm talking to attorneys. I'm corresponding with Carmen and Denise over the rest of the board members. This is not a job where we show up, take a look at the agenda, check off a book, check certain blocks and walk away. And speaking directly to one project that I started in 2018, That was a 40-hour-a-week job at minimum for the first 18 months. So, with all due respect, sir, we work very hard on your behalf.
There's also a QR code on the envelopes that you receive when you check in. Please use those QR codes to go to a survey to let us know what problems there are in your units. You know, we depend on that information. You know, Mark and his crew are all over the place throughout every week, but you know, they depend on your input on a week-by-week basis as you're using the unit.
Please state your name.
Thank you. My name is Todd Rippey. My wife and I also own several units here. Since some of this other stuff came up, I would say I wouldn't do your job for free. So I think it's almost ridiculous. But my question is this. I'm super excited to hear Duck. Is Duck bought in on everything that's happening with the pool up front? And there is no backside element, like I think you had to add parking at the rec center that we didn't know about when Duck originally got on board. I hope I have that right. So my question is, with the renovation of the pool, is Duck involved, the town of Duck, and have they kind of given you the blessings to go forward with this project?
Yes. The contractor who we're using has been very much, that is pretty much the first thing that he has done in virtually every single question or item that we've asked. So yes, the town of Duck has been involved, as well as the health department, and right from the very beginning. And it's been very much so. I mean with our vendor that we're looking at using. So yes, sir, he's done that.
Okay, fantastic. The second thing is directed, in my opinion, to the money people. So I think the fact that you're renting out these units and you're making money for us is fantastic. It was a great idea. You're kind of getting us above the water, in my opinion. But I will say this, and I spoke to Walter offhand or on the side during our break. We rented this time. Thank you for letting us do that, because $100 a night instead of $500 is a good deal. When we came into the unit, I did also notice some things that I think should not have been missed. The bathroom door won't close. It's too large, too swollen, too something. And I'm like, it's a little ridiculous that this hasn't been taken care of. Also, the floor, laminate floor that is installed in several places has separated from the locking joint, which tells me if somebody's mopping, water's going underneath that floor, and that will be a future problem for you. And I've heard, you know, comments about mold. I've not experienced mold, but hearing the comments. But to this point, I think that because you've started this rental program, or whatever you're calling it, I don't want to see that fail. And if I wasn't a Duck owner with a vested interest and I showed up with a weekly rental and I ran into something as simple as a door that won't shut, I would be probably taken back, if that makes, maybe not come back. I hope we're not going to put ourselves in that position, right? We want the be-backs, right? The other thing, and this is so small you're probably going to laugh, but the light bulbs in this building, some are yellow and some are white, and that drives me nuts. So thank you for hearing my comments.
This is going to be the last question because everybody else is listening.
I would beg that we let at least two more people in their mind, because this is really why we're here. We come here once a year to get our voices heard. Our voices need to be here heard. So we only need two more people behind her.
How many people are left? We actually have, we'd love to meet all day, but we do have time constraints on the building, and you can still ask questions after the adjournment. So if it's going to be short, some people have had 20 minutes of asking questions today. And we've tried to give you plenty of time to ask your questions. But in fairness to everyone else, we need to move this along. So, ma'am, will you please go ahead, Gail, with your question?
Yes.
She's going. Oh,
Ready?
we're ready. We're ready, Gail. Please
Hi,
go ahead.
hi, I'm Gail. Rick and I own 718 A and B, Week 40. Love that unit. We've owned since 90. We love Barrier Island Station. And a few things that add up each week, each year. Let's eliminate providing the toiletries. The cost of that is about $4, and it does add up. So consider not providing toiletries. And also, the kitchenware and other items in units. I read in the agenda that the plates, utensils would be replaced. Let's reconsider the use of those to save money and save them to replace anything broken. These little things do add up to a lot of money. Thank you for all you do. You are greatly appreciated. And Linda mentioned, of course, once we repurpose the 100 building, if that goes as we dream of, let's add some private showers to the rec room for those who fish and want to get cleaned up, dry off before they head back to their unit or get in their car. Thank you again for everything, and look at those little things that add up. And please don't allow extra coffee towel, usable stuff to be replenished, definitely not more than one time a week. Thank you.
John Ferguson is my name. We own 11 units, and our son owns a couple more. So we've got a vested interest in this place. We come every year, 5, 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks sometimes. And I'm going to follow up on what Gail just said. We have discussed this issue with several of the folks that are here today. I have a suggestion. I thank the board for all they do. I know you spend hours and hours and hours. My wife emails probably every one of you 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 times a year. We talk with you all the time. One of the questions that I would have, and I'm just going to throw it out there before I get into this, is, has anybody attended the Meet the Managers meetings? Every time we've gone, 7 times this year, we've had 2 or 3 or 4 people show up. Nobody shows up. Our owner participation and involvement with management on site does not appear to be there. All of us do not express our opinions on a regular basis and tell you what's going on, what's not going on. We do talk with Walter. We've talked with Walter numerous times. He thinks we're a thorn in the side, I'm sure. I've talked with Mark, the same thing. The other day, Gail and my wife and I showed up for the Meet the Manager meeting. We spent 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Mark was informing us all the things that are being done, changes, things that are coming. And we also spent an additional hour and a half questioning Mark as to what's going on, why do we have these problems, can we not fix these things, suggestions and everything else. So I brought a suggestion today, following up on what Gail, and we've already discussed this, but if we eliminate putting the small bottles of shampoo, conditioner, and body lotion in our bathrooms, at 196 bathrooms, every week, say it costs $4 per bathroom for those 3 items to be put in there. And we also have these additional loft units that have an additional bathroom, so we have 3 bathrooms in some of those. If you total up the total number of units we're talking about, total number of baths, we've got almost 200. There's 196 of those. If we estimate $4 for each one of those items, the conditioner, shampoo, and the body lotion, we'd come up with approximately 196 times $4, or $784 for each week. If you multiply that times 50 weeks out of the year, you're coming up with $39,000. Why could we not eliminate the $39,000 cost? We're not a hotel. most people in several of the other places we've been, we've discussed this with other timeshares that we own. Same principle. Several of them have already eliminated this type of thing and said they've saved significant monies. So I'd like to propose today we implement a money savings idea effective, say, January 1, February 1, whatever date we decide. I said February 1. And we've got a quorum here today. We already voted on an idea, proposition, whatever you want to call it, a motion to create an additional 2 seats on the board. So I'm suggesting, making a motion today, we go ahead and eliminate this shampoo, conditioners, and bottle. And I'm asking if there's any discussion and a second.
Can I, so do you want to address this simply because of the fact that I don't know what RCI is?
Yeah, if I could, I can explain more from just an operation standpoint. So what we see across timeshares, and I would probably say it's most uncommon to not provide those items. What's happened as the industry has matured, as owners have stopped participating, stopped paying their maintenance fees, resorts have really heavily relied on rental income to subsidize, I think Carmen said 216 intervals. So there is some hard cost with that. What tends to be generally accepted as hospitality, whether it's a full suite of bathroom amenities, guests do look for that. Whether they're an exchanger, they're going to rate you. You have a high propensity of RCI outbound exchange and also inbound exchange. So it can impact that if those items are removed. If ratings do fall, that has a negative and adverse effect on owners who exchange to where their trading power could be diminished. I'm not saying it will, but the potential is there. And from a rental standpoint, the be back, we do have to deliver to our guests, right? So if a guest comes and there's no basic amenities, I could probably tell you they're not coming back. And that $240,000 of net revenue through just September is going to significantly decline. The challenge with that is the budget is built on 52.5% of participating owners. So each year, we're attritioning about 1.5%. So if your rental is declining and your owner base is declining, that only equates to increased fees for each and every one of you and those owners that are out there in the general public as well. So I would look at it with much more consideration. I think your point, cost savings, is very important, and there are areas to achieve it. What I would caution is not at the expense of the guest experience.
Well, to counter that, so to speak, you could put those packages together in the front office, and if somebody asked for one, you could say, here's one. But we've experienced at other locations, and we've done it at a couple other timeshares we own. We've done away with those types of things and saved monies. Those things are available in a vending machine at the front office for $3 or $4. You can do that kind of a thing. There's alternatives that could be done as opposed, but I don't know how many folks here actually use those things. Could we have a show of hands, anybody that uses them? How many do not use them?
Well,
But
John,
it's something to consider.
John, we appreciate the suggestion. I think we should go, I said, we appreciate your suggestion, and we appreciate you and Margie and all of the...
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you, John. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. The next order of business here is what we call new business. And I'm going to ask Austin to come up. We are actually now going to take one more floor vote before we get into the election.
Do it here. Hi. One of the opportunities you get from serving on this board is you get to serve on more than one board. I also serve on the Common Areas Board along with David and Carmen. Our responsibility on that board is the oversight for everything on the resort that has nothing to do with a building, with a dwelling unit. For example, the outdoor pool, the beach ramp, the rec center, the basketball court, the tennis courts, the pickleball court. The projected cost, as I sit here, for renovating actually refurbishing the outdoor pool is $517,000. If we are to replace the bridge would cost over and above that between $25,000 and $30,000. The reason it's so expensive is the codes that we are dealing with today are vastly different from the codes that were in effect when the pool was constructed and the bridge was installed. The reason I'm briefing you on it is I would like to conduct a non-binding straw poll. And in that straw poll, I'd like to know, what are your thoughts? Replace or do not replace the bridge at a cost of $25,000 to $30,000. Now, I'm not going to open it for discussion because we don't have the time for that. I am going to ask for a yes or no vote. All those in favor of replacing the bridge at that cost, sir?
Should be 3 options.
It's gone. It's gone. So, yes, there should be that option. We've already exercised it, okay? And we did it well, I might add. In any case, the options are replace the bridge, do not replace the bridge, okay? So, those in favor of replacing the bridge at that cost, please raise your hand. Sure.
Is there increased insurance costs added to what you have just stated if we put the bridge back?
To be determined. We can't project that right now. Okay. So I'm sorry, I did not get what the count was. Raise your hand if you want to replace the bridge. Okay. Okay. All right. Those who do not want the bridge replaced, okay. I think it's pretty clear. Thank you very much.
Everybody, I think I've got the last portion here is the election, the results. Ms. Ferguson, Ms. Patterson, or Mr. Ferguson and Ms. Patterson helped with the counting of the proxies, counting of the votes that we collected today, and the results are in, and our incumbents stay. It was close, very close, and we thank Mr. Pete for his time and for putting his name in the hat. But for the next 2 years, it is will be Mr. Rich Finelli and Carmen. Thanks. We're also going to go ahead and motion to adjourn immediately after. We do have a quick little celebration with cake. Always a reason to have cake. Celebrating the bylaws. And then we'll also do the raffle as soon as we adjourn the meeting here. So going to get a motion to adjourn? And your name, sir? Got it. Thank you, sir. All right. All in favor? Thank you. Yeah, we'll do the raffle if everybody's got their tickets. Mark, you want to do it? You want me to announce, or you want to pull, or how do you want to do it?
Doesn't matter. You can announce, and I'll just pull the numbers.
All right. You want to announce? All right, Mark, you pull it.
Okay, I'll pull the numbers.
I'll pull the item. How about that? That's good. Barrier Island gift basket. Are you the Vanna Whites?
This is for the gift basket?
Yeah.
This is for the Barrier Island gift basket. I should have put on my eyeglasses. The number ending in 772.